night looked like 80s, 90s college football. It was quarterback dependent, but it was not five wides and all night, kind of quarterback draws, and it was not quarterback centric. Now, both quarterbacks played big roles, one in victory and one in defeat. And I was not surprised at all with Drew Aller and what he did late in the game. I told last year when I came home from the Peach Bowl, I was very unimpressed with him. And I knew what the Ole Miss coaches said and thought about him in preparation for that game. And in the end, that's what he did. But he got the loss, and Riley Leonard and Notre Dame got the win. But I don't know that was a quarterback win last night. I do know this. That Notre Dame touchdown run late in the game, Jeremiah Love's 2-yard touchdown run, that's a 2-yard touchdown run as you'll ever see in sports. Yeah. In football.
Yeah, I mean, and it was you look at it, I thought the biggest thing kind of going back after that game and looking at the rushing yards for Notre Dame. I mean, they ran for 116 rushing yards, and it was a little bit of everybody in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys had 10 or more yards. Your leading rusher only had 45 yards. It was a little bit of everybody. Riley Leonard doing it with his legs. You mentioned Jeremiah Love. He led the team with 45 yards. Jaden Thomas with a good 18-yard rush. I mean, it was impressive on both sides. And then Penn State goes out there and runs for 200 yards. I mean, this was a throwback college football game, and it was really fun to watch. And we kind of talked about it yesterday, Brett, of there is no quarterback left in these four that you really feel like you want dropping back and slinging it around and winning
putting
the
it
game.
all on them.
Yeah, just with their arm. And we saw last night both these teams kind of be ground, and then you hope when you need your quarterback to make a play for you, he can. And unfortunately for Drew Aller, late in that game when they decided to throw the ball and try to make something happen through the air, he comes up with that interception that really set up Notre Dame in really good yardage for to run a couple plays, run that clock down, and knock down a field goal.
Both teams, 42 rushing. It was 42 for Notre Dame, 42 for Penn State. Penn State won the all-important rushing battle. Yeah. Okay, so now that falls to what, 32-12 for the bowl season, and Notre Dame won the passing battle. What's that get the passing to? 20. Yeah, I've got it right here. Takes passing to 21-23. But last night they did it, and Notre Dame also did it with more turnovers than Penn State. But it was hard hitting, physical,
it's a fun game.
Really between the hash mark football and I not only did I not mind it, I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I've heard a lot of under bettors that said, "Oh man, that under was sailing to victory." Up until the fourth quarter. I mean, you already checked it off as a win, and then the fourth quarter, both teams really came alive offensively. And
I had 20 points scored after three quarters.
Exactly, but
then a 17-14 fourth quarter.
That's right. So you completely double your score output in that fourth quarter.
We had what I thought the score would be the fourth quarter.
That's right. I mean, it was it was a wild one, but it was a really, really fun game, and hopefully sets up for an even better matchup tonight between Ohio State and Texas.
Notre Dame is back.
Yeah, no, they definitely are, and I like the leadership there, and certainly
I do
too. Looks like they have things going in a really, really, really great direction.
For all the hits, or all the misses they had in coaches, they had a hit in Brian Kelly, but they weren't cool enough for him. He wanted out, and I just think it's rich with irony that his successor is doing, and I think he's done it over the last 3 years, 9 wins, 10 wins, and this year 14 wins. And Brian Kelly's not doing that at LSU.
No, I mean, it has been everything Notre Dame could have hoped for with replacing Brian Kelly, because it was kind of a sky is falling moment for them of, wow, he's leaving us for LSU, and then they go and hire him.
He kicked sand in their face.
He absolutely did. And like you said, they weren't cool enough, and he thought he could do better, and obviously wanted to go to the big bad SEC, and he got his wish, and it's becoming a little too much for him to handle. And on the other side, Marcus Freeman is really turning this into a fun program to watch and root for. And he is just a terrific head coach.
And for the big bad SEC, Brian, those years that when the SEC would have a miss in the playoffs, well, it was usually Clemson or Florida State, somebody from down here that looks and recruits and mostly acts like the big bad SEC does. If Texas doesn't come through tonight and it's a Notre Dame Ohio State final, that means the last 2 years, it's 2 years.
Sure.
But that's starting to develop a trend.
Yeah.
It's not only 2 years that the SEC's been out. It's 2 years that up there been winning.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And you look at, the almost this conference rivalry of the Big Ten and the SEC. It feels like those are the two power conferences, if you want to say the ultimate power conferences. And to say, hey, look at this matchup tonight. Big Ten and SEC. But to look at that Final Four and you have two Big Ten schools and one SEC school, and then Notre Dame's kind of out there having fun by themselves. But yes, I mean, to have it be these northern schools doing it these last couple of years, it's different.
It is different, and I think if you had to lump Notre Dame into a conference, you think of them more in a profile, a stereotype, as Big Ten. I know they play that kind of hybrid ACC,
sure,
but they're more Big Ten than they are ACC.
Yeah. Big Ten in hockey, so I mean they at least they have one sport that has the Big Ten patch on it. So
and I know a lot of people today of the Southern SEC fanboy partisan wanting to say Notre Dame's gotten to get in the conference. No, they don't. They don't. This is example number 1 through 10,000 of why they don't have to. Okay, so at best they're stuck in that 5 seed. And this year, I think they were 6 even, right?
7. They were the
7 seed. That's right. They were 7. So at the very best under this format, it's going to change. They could do was B5, and we remarked about it. Unbelievably, the chieftains of college football did something really with Notre Dame kind of over at the bad table.
Yeah.
Well, they're in the finals. Why should they change anything? Why should they split up a pie with anything? Now, any league would take them. All they would have to do is say, SEC, we want to, and the membership papers would be in front of them.
Before they can even finish the sentence.
They couldn't even finish. We want to join. And the SEC's not alone in that. And I've said for a long time, I want to live long enough that I saw Notre Dame. Got to see the SEC have Notre Dame in it. This year, the schedule, while opening on the road at Texas A&M, it didn't have a lot of week in, week out pitfalls. They did have the stumble at home against Northern Illinois, but that's just how it shook out this year. Those names and those brands they played against this year, when they make that schedule, they can't really help that Florida State had the year that they had. That's not really on Notre Dame. They can't help that USC again was limping to a finish line. That's not on them. And I think historically, playing Stanford, I'm not trying to make too much out of Georgia Tech or Purdue, but I think they're historically they're both a little bit better than either of those teams this year. This year Louisville. Now here's one for next year, as far as joining a league. Should Notre Dame join one? Here's Notre Dame's schedule for next year, and I want to ask anybody out there if they want to play that schedule, whatever league you're in. They open at Miami, week 2 home against A&M, then home against Purdue, at Arkansas. So next year in the month of September, either the national champion or the national runner-up will play 2 SEC teams in the month of September.
Yeah.
Then they play Boise State.
Wow.
USC at home, Navy at home, at Pitt, at Boston College, home against NC State, home against Syracuse.
Wow.
On paper, nobody in the SEC is playing a schedule like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, just on paper, that's a tough schedule, and it's a really good schedule. But
and the very idea of playing Boise State.
Oh yeah, I mean that when that's kind of your group of 5 opponent, and that's a really good opponent to play.
they will play two SEC teams in the month of September, and they will open opening day at the U against an SEC quarterback in Carson Beck.
Wow, yeah, and he announced his commitment earlier today. Shocker.
$4 million.
No, he's getting the bag over there. But no, I mean, you mentioned it. The people who have the argument of, Notre Dame has to join a conference. The worst possible thing for that argument was for them to do what they have now done and get all the way to the national championship game. Because why would they change anything if it's working? It'd be one thing if they got blown out in the opening game and they're saying, okay, well, this not having the bye and us having to play in the first weekend. If they were on the road for that first weekend game, yeah, maybe all of that would have been different. But home in that first weekend against Indiana, and then they have had success the last two rounds and are now in the national championship game. Not going to change a thing. It's working fine for them.
And we knew after the week 0 Dublin game that Florida State was going to have a scuffling year. And then that next week for week 1, and I know we talked about it. If A&M didn't beat Notre Dame, they were going on a run. Well, they didn't beat them. And they did go on a run, but they did slip against Northern Illinois.
Right.
We didn't see. No. Nobody saw NIU doing that as a 28-point underdog. Northern Illinois getting that win, but I applaud Notre Dame. And the only conference that could play rough with them on joining is the one that they kind of play in that hybrid version.
Yeah.
The ACC could say join for everything or lose our number on playing in basketball, but they don't want to do that.
No,
I don't blame them.
No, I mean, you have Notre Dame as a part of your conference for a sport, and so yeah, you're definitely going to take that.
And you said it, Brian. You said it. I don't even know if you meant to, but you said it. You have Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of people mad.
Yeah.
I don't get the. I hear people say you either love them or hate them. I'm neither.
Yeah. I'm with
you. In fact, I want to ask people at the Cincy's Log Cabin text line, 901-360-8255. On Notre Dame, love or hate?
It's a great question. That's
it.
Yeah.
And, of course, we mean in the sports sense.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to something, I guess, yesterday or the day before, and some people kind of breaking down this matchup, and one of the people said, I hate Notre Dame, but it's kind of hard to hate them when they have Marcus Freeman as their head coach. And I was like, yeah, no, there are a lot of people that hate Notre Dame, and so that's a good question. Let us know.
Do you love or hate?
I'm with you. I'm neither.
I'm neither.
I don't have any care about them at all.
If anything, because of their place in college football history, and it is a huge one, I love, I admire. I don't know that I love, but I certainly admire. Brian, around a few years ago, in the season of 2019, was the 150th anniversary of college football.
Yeah.
And I was speaking at a group, and I got one of the great questions of all time. A person asked me, said, this year for the 150th anniversary of college football, if you didn't know one thing about the history of college football, what would you study up on? What would you really try to get down to catch up? I said two things. Learn the complete history of Notre Dame and learn the complete history of Paul Bear Bryant. And you can be conversational. Yeah. You'll be caught up to speed on the history of college football.
That's a good answer. That's a really good answer. It's a great question, too.
It was a great question.
I've never thought of that question, but it is a fantastic question. And I think a really good answer. But no, that was a fun game last night.
Want to beat them?
Yeah.
And I know several years ago, and I'm not picking on anybody here, but this year, I'll use Northern Illinois for an example.
Yeah.
But several years ago, they were losing a bunch. And I think over a course of a few weeks, they lost to like Marshall and Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was talking about how much he loved it. I said, no, you got this all wrong. When it really matters is like when Bama beat them a few years ago when they're undefeated.
Right.
That's when you should enjoy it. When everybody that's got a blocking sledge beating them is not important.
That's right. Yeah. I think if anything, love, hate, I think, like you said, admire, I think, respect them. I respect Notre Dame of who they are and their legacy in college football.
And they ruined back-to-back New Year's Eve and New Year's Day for me in 73-74 beating Alabama.
Yeah.
But the part of that, the lore of college football, that I so adore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll talk more about this game and also the game later tonight, 6:30 on ESPN. More like 6:45. I think that's about what time that game started last night. Notre Dame and Penn State. So, yeah, about 6:45 tonight, not 6:30. You still got about 15 minutes after it says it starts that you can.
Worst loss of the year last night for the Grizzlies?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, okay. I know the time mismanagement and whatever you want to call it with the timeout at the end, but I wouldn't say worse just because
and now 0-2 against Houston.
Yeah, no, that's hard to look at. But Houston's a good team, and I still think how important, I guess you could argue, but those Brooklyn games, I mean, that's still the one that I look at and go, how in the
they're
world?
Kind of on us, aren't they?
How in the world did you lose those games? So I would still say Brooklyn, but yeah, we got to talk about that. We'll do that a little bit later in the hour. But let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Alan Bell from Driving the Line and the AB3. He'll join us to talk some wagering. We'll get his thoughts on tonight's game. Ohio State about a 6.5 point favorite over Texas. We'll get his thoughts for all of these games over Wild Card Weekend. We'll do that in our next segment with Alan. 3:45, we'll talk the Grizzlies and their loss last night against Houston. Post-game, Taylor Jenkins said that one was all on me, and that timeout he called at the very end of the game with about 3 seconds left. We'll talk about what happened throughout that game that led to that final sequence. We'll do that at 3:45. 4 o'clock, Bruce Marshall from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BAMSports.net. He'll join us. We'll talk some more wagering with Bruce. We'll get to tonight's game, Ohio State and Texas. We'll get to the NFL games. We might also get to some NBA, maybe even college basketball games with Bruce. A little bit of everything with Bruce Marshall. 4:30, Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas in Fort Smith. He'll join us to talk the Razorbacks and the SEC. We'll get his thoughts on Texas tonight being the lone SEC team standing in the college football playoffs. But we'll talk a lot of Arkansas basketball, their back-to-back losses to start conference play against Tennessee and Ole Miss, and what's coming up in the world of SEC basketball this week, and we'll do that with Ty Richardson at 4:30. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Jason Munns, the Commercial Appeal Tiger basketball beat writer. He will join us to talk all things Tigers. As always, he's presented by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. Tigers back in action tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock against East Carolina. They put out an update yesterday saying the game would go on as scheduled. No updates since then, but it looks like they will be playing that game tomorrow afternoon. 5:30, we'll get to our First National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast. Very NFL heavy this week with all of the wild card action, but we do got to make picks for that Ohio State and Texas game. And then at 5:45, we'll wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Get over there for the floor model sale. All 2024 inventory, it's got to go. Help them make room for 2025. All floor models up to 50% off. Cold plunge tubs up to $49.99. Hot tubs with $3,000 off and free steps and chemicals included. Don't forget about the pool tables, arcades, ping pong tables, air hockey, foosball tables, all 20 to 60% off. And that theater seating up to 75% off. And it's cold and snowy out there, but it's not too early to start thinking about that pool season. Maybe the best thing to do with it as cold as it is start thinking about pool season. Buy now and get on schedule for that install before summer, before that rush, right before the summertime. Head out to Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40.
Landon, Bryant, Brett with you until 6 o'clock. We're Sports Time. We want you to be a part of our show by texting or calling 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk number. Hit us up. Love or hate Notre Dame at 901-360-8255. All our guests would join us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. As Bryant said, always cold, hot, outside, whatever it is, we're always in our Family Leisure Studios. And always, this first hour brought to you by the great people at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com, the one and only Lexus dealership in Memphis. Great offers on all 2025 models and always special leasing options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day has got to be the Notre Dame-Penn State game last night. The Orange Bowl, or as a lot of people claim it now, the first of two college football playoff semifinal games. It was a back and forth, like Brett said, an old school game throwback. 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. Neither team really.
I was fine by.
Oh, I loved it. I was at Huey's, of course, with Melinda watching the game, and she kept looking up at it, and she goes, "This has got to be the most boring game ever. They're not doing anything." I go, "Oh, Melinda, you've got to love games
strategy
like this." I mean, this is a beautiful game of football, and it was a lot of fun.
She may have been a little bit right, though.
Well, it was. She's got to enjoy that.
That's right.
She's got to learn the joys of defensive first football, and that's what we got for most of this game. I know in the fourth quarter, both offenses started to really turn it up, and that really determined the game. 27-24, the final score. Notre Dame gets the big win. Riley Leonard, he was pretty good. 223 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. He did have 2 interceptions, but he also ran for 35 yards and a rushing touchdown on 18 carries. On the other side, Penn State's game plan, great defense, a great run game, and Drew Aller just make plays when we need you to make plays. 2 of the 3 were pretty good all night, and then unfortunately for Drew Aller, and I think you can question. I've heard all day today, both sides, both points. I've heard some people saying, when you have that ball, under 2 minutes, your run game's been so good, continue to ground and pound, and if you can't get it, punt it away and play defense. I'm kind of in that camp too. I've also heard the flip side of, you have an opportunity to go and win the game with a veteran quarterback, put the ball in his hands and let him go out and make something happen. I really wish they would have continued to go with the run game. They kind of had a fun little package that they worked in there a couple times with Tyler Warren and in the Wildcat. It seemed like it was impossible to bring him down. I wish we could have gotten one of those called on that drive, but instead they decide they want to throw the ball downfield. Drew Aller makes the wrong read and throws an interception, and then you knew at that moment that Notre Dame was going to win that game. They were going to run the clock down, and they were going to knock down a chip shot. Yes, a really nice field goal, because they did not gain as much yards as I thought they would. It was a tough field goal, but he was able to knock it down, and now Notre Dame, they danced their way to the national championship game. You got to give a lot of credit to Marcus Freeman and the job he has done. A young head coach, but to do what he has been able to do at Notre Dame when you got a lot of pressure on you, able to get to this national championship game. Really fun to watch last night.
That kick was trying to slice a little bit. Instead, it just kind of that high draw. Drew right back in there between the goalposts. Good. My top story right there. Classic. NA Classic. In a rough and tumble physical game that I far prefer over 2 pass-happy, gimmicky teams, and we have 48-47. Wake up, that goes. Notre Dame prevails 27-24, and Marcus Freeman properly being hailed today as a coaching powerhouse. He has Notre Dame on the verge of its best chance to win a national championship since 1988. They had no chance against Bama after the 2012 season. They have more than a puncher's chance for sure against Texas and even against Ohio State.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, it's the Grizzlies and their loss last night against the Rockets. 119-115, a really fun game, back and forth. This is a really
You know
fun
what the over and
Rockets
under was,
team.
don't you?
I have no idea. I did not play
232 and a half.
Oh, wow.
Do the math.
Oh, wow.
Those NBA over and unders.
They got them nailed, Brett.
I would rather go out and play in traffic with knives
Yes, I'm with you.
and power lines down.
I can't tell you the last time I played an NBA
Don't.
total. I mean, it is tough out there. But it was a fun game last night. I mean, some really talented younger players. I don't want to say super young because a lot of these guys have now been in the league 3, 4, 5 years. But Alperen Sengun, what he was able to do last night with 32 points. Jalen Green with 27. Amin Thompson looked good. Ja Morant in his first game back from injury was awesome. 27 points for him. Desmond Bane looked good. Jaren, another really good game for him. But this came down to multiple things. I know a lot of people are talking about the late game execution, the phantom timeout that was called right before Desmond Bane threw up a 3-ball that would have tied it, that went in, but the timeout was called before. But Brett, I really don't want to focus on that because really when you look at this game, it comes down to the 19 turnovers that the Grizzlies had and what Houston was able to do off of those 19 turnovers. I mean, they had a ton. I think with about 3 minutes left, they threw it up there on the graphic, and the Rockets had 29 points off of turnovers, and I mean, that is just something that we've talked about game after game after game, that the Grizzlies have got to get better when it comes to turning over the ball, and that was a big reason that led to that loss last night against the Rockets.
My not top story, let's hope tonight at the Cotton Bowl is like last night at the Orange Bowl, a classic, great game to watch. And this one can be tonight between Texas and Ohio State. Texas, okay, you don't have to win the rushing battle. Notre Dame didn't, but you got to run it a little. You got to keep them honest, or they're going to tee off on Quinn Ewers, and I don't think Texas can protect him enough if they're very one-dimensional. Run it a little. He has to be able to run it a little, like Riley Leonard did a little to a lot, and very effective last night against Penn State. I love these semifinals. Last night delivered. Hope tonight does.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Well, that'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to our first break. And when we return, we're talking some wagering. Alan Bell, he joins us next.
Shack in the Lowe's parking lot on summer just keeps getting bigger and better. Bigger because now there's a second Elwood Shack at 4040 Park across from the University of Memphis. And better because you can get breakfast every day at both Elwoods. There's the barbecue breakfast burrito, either beef brisket or pork shoulder, and pancake biscuits made fresh daily, real house-made pancakes, apple and bacon, French toast, and more. And the new Elwoods even has a real coffee bar serving fresh roasted J. Brooks coffee. Elwood Shack, now with 2 locations and open every day for you.
Tiger fans, don't miss the action when Memphis men's basketball welcomes East Carolina to FedEx Forum Saturday, January 11th. The Tigers will tip off against the Pirates in an American Conference matchup at 1 o'clock as we celebrate Kids Day with face painters, balloon artists, and a halftime baby race. It's time to stand up, Memphis, and support your Tigers at FedEx Forum in a big-time matchup that you do not want to miss. Memphis and East Carolina, Saturday, January 11th at 1 o'clock. Get your tickets now at GoTigersGo.com.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I plug mother pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Five-Ash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. They're putting the final touches on a crash. It's been out here for a while on 240 southbound, just past South Parkway. Terrible driving conditions all over the area this afternoon. If you have to get out and about in all this, please use caution and common sense. There's a lot of slipping and sliding going on out here. Hey, Weimer's Jewelry, serving the Memphis area for over 40 years. No matter what the occasion is, you'll save a lot of money at Weimer's Jewelry. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Going back into Sports Time, Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. We talked a lot about that first semifinal game in the first segment, but now we got to talk about what's coming up. And joining us now to talk some wagering, Alan Bell from the AB3 and Driving the Line. He joins us now. Alan, thanks so much for joining us. A fun game last night between Notre Dame and Penn State. So let's start with the second game of the college football playoff semifinals. Ohio State and Texas tonight at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl down in Arlington, Texas. Right now, Ohio State, a 6-point favorite, that total at 51.5. What do you like tonight, Alan?
Yeah, man, first, I appreciate you guys having me back. And, here's the interesting part. So we're seeing the total dropping. All right, 53.5 all the way down now to 51.5. So the big question is this: does Ohio State continue to do what they do? Right? They have started against Tennessee, they started against Oregon, just on absolute fire and just taking the other team out of the game immediately. Right? So seeing the total drop tends to tell me that the public thinks that won't happen. That we're going to see a little bit more of a defensive battle. I think we're going to see a shootout, to be honest with you. I think Ohio State comes back a little bit to earth, right? I don't think they're perfect. I think they have a great game. I don't think they're perfect. And I think we see Texas do some different things. I think we see Arch Manning use his legs out there a little bit. Long story short, give me the over, 51.5. That's where I want to go with this because this spread is dangerous.
Over 51.5. So far in the bowl season, Alan, out of 44 games, the over is 25-19. So if you were just riding the over and everything, you'd be in good shape. I don't know how anybody could bet a under in this bowl season.
I know, right? And look, how that game last night started. If that one hit the over, yeah,
then everything,
yeah. Then it had Alabama, LSU written all over it. You know what I mean? And then they started scoring. And, it's just because you have everything on the line, man. Literally either go home or go to a national championship. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. If you're a betting person in terms of halves, bet the second half over. I think the number is 27.5 points combined for both teams. Yeah, you'll probably see a lot of second half points.
You mentioned Arch Manning. What about package for him, props for him, anything along that?
Yeah, so, here in Tennessee, unfortunately, college player props, we don't get them, right, because they're just not regulated. However, you're going to see in some states that you will see Arch Manning rushing props, and that's where I think that they're going to use them. Not that the kid can't throw, but they're not going to use them a ton regardless, unless something bad happens, to Quinn Ewers, which we're not saying they will. But they want to use him to spread that Ohio State defense out. Because where Ohio State has gotten Tennessee and Oregon is that, number one, they jump on you offensively, and then number two, that D-line just pins its ears back, and you just have no time back there because they use 3 safeties in their defense. It's just a beautiful combination of what Ohio State does. So if you could spread them out, right, and have a quarterback that's mobile, you're going to neutralize that, and it's going to give them problems. They're going to have to change things up. So that's what I think. I think you're going to see Arch Manning get out there, use his legs a bit, and then go back to Quinn Ewers.
Alan, this next question on my part is pure speculation, pure conjecture. It's Sports Talk Radio. We're not NPR. We're not sitting here, not having opinions. We have opinions. We're a for-profit entity. Do you think Sark's usage of Arch down the stretch of the year has been limited because the trust, ready to hand it over to him factor right now, or, and this is my conjecture here, play him too much. Ewers is out of there and somewhere else next year.
You know what? I think he is regardless. I think you bring up a great point here, and here's the deal. I don't think Quinn Ewers is a big enough draft pick to make sense, because now you can make a lot of money in college. You would give you what I think happens? I think that Texas is ready for the Arch Manning era to begin next year. And I think that Quinn Ewers ends up at Notre Dame. I could see him ending up taking the place of a guy like Riley Leonard. They've got, plenty of money up there for NIL. I'm with you. I think that is a fascinating question, because Quinn Ewers finds himself in a really kind of middle position. And then the other part, remember, he started his college career at Ohio State.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's facing in tonight. Quinn Ewers is a fascinating human being. Keep an eye on exactly what you said. I think that's an excellent point that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Alan, we've seen the news the last day and a half on Carson Beck. There's also this. The afternoon of the Ole Miss Bowl game, I had a person, a nice person, that hit me with, I think Dart's coming back. And I took a step back. I said, and I bet you think Santa really ate those cookies and drank that milk about a week ago, don't you? And now it feels like that has steam that Dart may return, because if Beck and Ewers aren't kind of in lofty draft spots, then I don't think Jackson Dart will be. And I know he can make more money next year playing college football than he can maybe trying to scuffle and make an NFL team. And I had this conversation with an Ole Miss person. They said, would you do it? I said, heck yeah. Do you want to look up and be playing against him next year?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question, right? And I think Jackson Dart, because here's the other part of that, right? So if every quarterback is not going to the league, well, somebody needs a quarterback, and they're going to draft him, right? So it's like your draft position could actually get elevated by not having the competition. But you're right? Like, it's not like teams are going to jump up. And Jackson Dart is fascinating because, quite honestly, I think he has a better arm than a guy like Quinn Ewers, right? I definitely think he's more mobile as well.
I think he moves better. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely.
And he was first team SEC this year, far and wide by a lot of rankings. And as I said to this person today, yes, I want him back, all-time record holder. We know what he can do. And do you really want to look up and be in the SEC championship game playing Alabama against Jackson Dart?
Right? Absolutely. And that's the good part. We talk about the NIL, and we talk about, all the money and transfer portal and stuff. Well, the good part about NIL money is that in a situation like this, normally it wouldn't even been a question. It's like, Jackson, go make your money, buddy. Go make your money. You deserve it. You're a good kid.
Thank you. Go make your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, right? Now it's like, okay, you can actually make some really nice money here, 7 figures, and come back and play. And you get better. You're putting money away. It's a win-win, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that guys like Jackson Dart, man, that's a fascinating conversation. And if I were him, yeah, you kind of get your draft grade of what people tell you, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm not at least a high second pick, but I'm coming back. You know what I mean? I'll run this back again.
What is no man's land? Mid to late third that you could really end up not making the team?
Yeah, because basically, all right, like a Malik Willis type of situation. And I think that Jackson Dart obviously is a way better quarterback than Malik is, and that's nothing against Malik. But, yeah, you find yourself in a spot where it's like, okay, all right, now you're a career backup, and how long does that last? Because there's not
3
a lot
years.
of quarterbacks. Yeah, and teams are trying to stockpile backups. You know what I mean? So you find yourself okay, you kind of cut your legs out. You're like, well, I'm going to go get that NFL contract. Well, you're going to get one, and then you'll be done, and you'll be out of the league. So, yeah, Jackson is right in that middle spot, but the good thing is that he could come back, make good money, and it's a win-win for all parties involved.
Yeah, when you see what Carson Beck is reportedly going to get at Miami, $4 million for a year at Miami. Ooh. It is
not bad.
No, not bad.
Which
not
that
bad.
would be about what he would make stuck as the clipboard guy for 3 years, and they cut him right before he gets into the retirement.
Exactly. So.
Oh, yeah. And I think he's already graduated. So it's like, What do you have to do? Take one class?
They're
Take
right.
golf? Yeah.
Ballroom dancing from Professor Matt Leinart.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's right. We're talking to Alan Bell from Driving the Line, AB3. He joins us every Friday to talk some wagering. Alan, let's jump over to the NFL. Wild Card weekend for the NFL. It starts tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 on CBS. Chargers and Texans. Right now, Chargers a 3-point favorite. This total at 42.5. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, you know what? I like the Chargers here. I'm not going to overthink it. The Houston Texans, they've been kind of falling apart. You know, don't take that Week 18 game against the Titans. Like, don't count too terribly much into that.
Right.
And not that I'm negative against Houston by any means, but Jim Harbaugh, like that, the Chargers' road defense is statistically the best in NFL history. That's a fact. Like, it's crazy how good that this defense is. Justin Herbert doesn't turn the ball over. They don't necessarily score 1 million points. They don't need to score 1 million points, right? Like, they just are efficient, man. I won't overthink this one. Give me the Chargers here. I think they handle this.
All right, let's stay on that overthinking wave. What else do you not want to overthink that you just love? You just jump.
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens. The same deal with the Steelers. And look, man, I love Mike Tomlin. We've talked about him all year. The Steelers, they're kind of coming back down to earth. And what you've seen out of Russell Wilson the last couple of weeks hasn't been great. And I think the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, I think that he's tired of hearing that they're a one-and-done team every year because they have been, right? And I don't think that they have to necessarily do too terribly much against Pittsburgh. I kind of hate it for Pittsburgh that playing an in-division rival because it kind of takes the nerves out. You're like, oh, I've already played the team twice. Like, we're just going to run Lamar and Derrick Henry, right? Yeah, I'm not going to overthink that one either. I think Baltimore steamrolls over Pittsburgh and just puts up a ton of points.
Alan, over these airwaves, I have made a proposal. It should be out there that every time Bo Nix wins a game in the NFL, Gus Malzahn should be forced to write a $100,000 check back to Auburn, or take 10 slaps across the face from Charles Barkley.
You know, I think I just cut the check, right? Like, I don't want to take them slaps.
I think I cut the check.
Like,
I don't. Well, if Barkley lit him up really good at that first one, he'd be writing the check the next time.
Yeah, he absolutely would, right? It's crazy that, like, that's the only place it didn't work with Bo Nix was at Auburn.
Imagine
like
that.
with Malzahn. That's the only spot, right? The kid's playing great, man. Like, give him credit. And, you know, he's doing it. And, you know, Sean Payton obviously there. But that's going to be a great game because the Bills, there's pressure. But, man, it feels like that team doesn't feel pressure this year. Like, they feel like they want to come out and steamroll, dude. Like, I think that could be a great over game right there.
Was it addition by subtraction that much with Diggs?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, he was calling the coaches out last year. Like,
Like,
no matter how good you are, you know, when you just cause problems, man, it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not good. Look at the Lions. Like, not that they had to get rid of anybody, but, like, culture matters, man. Like, and everybody's pulling the same direction, it matters.
Mm-hmm. Another game that's interesting, Commanders and Buccaneers is going to be the Sunday night game on NBC. Tampa Bay, a 3-point favorite. Commanders, a really fun story this year with Jaden Daniels, what he's done. It feels like he'll be Rookie of the Year. Right now, Tampa Bay, 3-point favorite, the total at 50.5. What do you like here?
You know what? I'm taking the under in this game because it makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense.
That's bold.
And this will be the game to where it's like both offenses just come to a stop because you know why? These two teams are exactly the same. They're exactly the same in how they get down. Their defense, pretty good in spots, not great, but pretty good. Quarterbacks, pretty good. Heisman Trophy winning guys, right? But when you stop them and you get pressure on either of these quarterbacks, bad things can happen, man. So I think you're going to see two coaches who are also pretty conservative, all right? You're going to see running the football on first down, running the football.
Two defensive coaches.
Absolutely, they are. And I think that these guys will – I don't think that they want to get – I don't think either one wants to get in a shootout because it's fun when your offense is clicking. It's not fun when it's only their offense clicking, right? So there could be a lot of running the football early in this game and a lot of clock ran off. I'm going to roll with the under.
Alan, we know with your upbringing. You love the Tennessee Titans, but you also love a lot the Tennessee Volunteers. The news this week to replace Bob Kessling, the voice of the Big Orange, someone we all love. The voice of the Titans leaving there, become the voice of football and basketball for Tennessee Volunteers. Mike Keith, I know you love it.
Oh man, like good for him, right? Like
great for him.
Happy for him because and you look at the Titans, and we don't want to kick a dead horse, right? But I mean, it's not a good situation over there internally and anything. And Mike Keith, the crazy thing is that across the state, Mike Keith's been the only guy. Like, he's been the only guy that's had that job, and the tough part for Titans fans is that what goes out the window, and you know this world better than anybody, Mike Keith is a walking encyclopedia, man. Like, he knows this team inside and out. So it's going to be good. He knows the league. Oh, absolutely, right? Like, so it's going to be good for Tennessee, in terms of the Volunteers. But, man, for the Titans, I don't have any hot boards, on play-by-play guys. I heard somebody here in Nashville, they called in, they said, what about Jim Nance? He lives in Nashville. And the host goes, no. Jim Nance makes $21 million a year. I think he's good.
I think he's doing all right.
Amy Strunk ain't paying that.
No, she's not paying that one at all, but good for Mike, man. Like, it seems like he's going to get some, just rejuvenation in your excitement. It's something new. He's done that job for 27 years, man. Isn't that crazy?
Now, I would love to ask him, with the basketball duties, is he ready for that Tuesday night at the Hampton Inn in College Station?
Oh, man.
That's fascinating. You're exactly right, because this ain't the NFL, man. It's the road. Yeah, this ain't the NFL once a week.
And it's not football. It's not SEC football either.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not staying penthouse in the Hilton, buddy. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, there are definitely going to be some changes. Well, Alan, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy this weekend. We'll do it again next Friday.
Man, look forward to it, boys. Y'all have a great weekend. Be safe in the snow out here, all right?
You too. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Alan Bell joining us from the AB3 and Driving the Line to talk some of these games over the weekend, the college and NFL action. Well, we need to get to another break. When we come back, the Grizzlies, they lost last night at home to the Houston Rockets. We'll talk about what we saw next on Sportstime.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat on your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today to their loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlin, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New DraftKings customers can bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code HERD, H-E-R-D. New customers get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a move that perfectly fits your budget and your needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis to get your personal, no obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving. Now, back to Sports Time.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we got a couple minutes before we wrap up our first hour. We got to talk some Grizzlies as they were in action last night against the Houston Rockets. A 119-115 loss at home that drops the Grizzlies to 24-14 on the season, 15-5 at home, and now back on the road, another 4-game road trip for them before returning on MLK Day for their MLK game. But Brett, that game last night, it was a fun game. We said yesterday it was going to be an entertaining matchup, two really good teams, but we were hoping, of course, the Grizzlies would be on the winning side. Unfortunately, not able to do it late.
Yeah, Houston is now officially more than a problem, aren't
yes. Yo, no, they're a good team, and I love the way they put this team together. It's a lot of young, talented.
Don't know how deep they are.
And that's a very good question. I know they've got a couple guys injured right now that they could really, Tari Eason is really good when he's in. Obviously, Jabari Smith Jr. Is a really good player. But, they have done it by going out and getting veteran guys, but they've also done it by just the draft. And you look at some of those guys that they were able to bring in from the draft that have really turned into to problems. And, they're a fun team to watch.
The return of Ja last night, 27, and when I say this, I don't mean it at all overly critical. It's just how I saw it. Got to have more from Zach Edey.
Yeah, and, that was a not a great matchup for him last night. Sengun is just so crafty and is one of those, classic European bigs that can, throw it around and is very light on his feet.
He had Edey's head on the swivel.
He made it look easy against Zach Edey, and you want, Zach Edey, you don't want – we can't have the story of Zach Edey's career being, hey, matches up well with some bigs, but not with others. And last night was just not a good game. With him. Yeah, plenty of time to learn.
Our rookies last night looked like rookies.
They did, and you're going to have games like that, that was certainly one of them last night, and, Alperen Sengun, again, 32 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists for him. I mean, he had a great game, and, Zach Edey just not able to get much going, only 4 points for him, only attempted 1 shot last night, and only grabbed 3 rebounds, and, we always talk about it, that big body, you need him to go and grab more boards.
Dylan Brooks only 5 for the Rockets last night, and Big Steve Adams, he had 0, but a great reception for Steve Adams, a good reception for both. I think anybody with Dylan Brooks, I don't think you should have ever had it, but you have whatever you want, and it is dissipating with the time that he's been gone. And then I love catching the post-game kind of handshakes and bro hugs.
Yeah.
And the John Conchar, Steve Adams interaction.
Oh, I missed that. What happened?
They both celebrated by simultaneously, I think, lovingly, friendly, flipping each other off.
That's great. That is. I would expect nothing less from those two.
Is that the new international?
I think so. I
say hello, you say goodbye.
That's right. I think so. That's hilarious. Yeah, I was watching to see those interactions, but I missed that one. I can't believe I missed that.
But it was with no.
Of course not.
Animus.
Of course not. That just that.
Usually that is met with animus.
Is, but that is very.
So all these years at LSU, when we pull in there, they're really being nice to us at Ole Miss.
They're really excited to see you. That's what it is. Yeah,
thank you.
They're
nice
happy
to see you too.
Welcome you back. My favorite part though was complete Dylan Brooks fashion. He scores the first points for Houston on a dunk, and then immediately gets teed up for hanging on the rim too long,
of course,
and shaking it a little too much. I was like,
why do we call that?
It's ridiculous. But
they're backing away from that in college.
They are. They're getting a little further away from
now,
it.
Here's what Coach Penny Hardaway tomorrow. Tell your guys. Don't let them make an example of us.
No,
don't do it. Just let go of it.
Yes. But
because I would lose it if I'm a coach. As much as it's being allowed to happen, it's a little bit like now in college football. You almost can spike the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
And what was the bowl game? Man, it was team ball spin. I can't remember the team, and they had it down. I thought y'all put in a lot of work at spinning the ball.
Great. I mean, it's a talent, Brett. I mean, you gotta perfect that craft. But
how would you like to do that and then it get called? Yeah. I don't know if people have noticed it or not. I don't know if many out there, except maybe in the Ole Miss world, really care. But you don't see after the big sack anymore at Ole Miss the land shark symbol that became popular. Now they still use it a lot in social media with things, but you don't see the players doing it because I was told they said, we don't want to get close to an excessive celebration penalty.
Interesting.
Let's don't do that. And that's been backed away from. I don't know that in the last 2 or 3 years anybody's done it.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, that's one of those things where I can't tell you I've been sitting on my couch on a Saturday and going, oh wow, they haven't done that. But now that you say that, and I start thinking back, I haven't. But you do see it a lot of when guys commit and they post that in their jersey committing, they'll have a picture of them throwing it up. But you're right, in game. I can't tell you the last time I've seen it.
But I would hate to be the college basketball player that made an example of this weekend after it's been pretty flagrant. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me either. But you're right. You don't want to be that team that gets kind of been the first that really gets the hammer dropped on them.
Full Dylan Brooks experience.
It really was. And it was fun to watch. Quickly, what did you make of the end of game, that whole thing?
It happens.
Yeah.
Not going to crush anybody over it. Now, playoff time probably would be crushable.
Sure. And, I mean, I thought Taylor Jenkins handled it well. I mean, immediately in his press conference said, that's on me. And, I think you just move on. I mean, we're probably having a completely different conversation. Nobody's batting an eye, probably.
I'd much rather happen in January than in May.
And if Desmond misses that shot, I mean, there's still going to be people saying, yeah, probably shouldn't have called that timeout, let it play. Right. But it wouldn't have been what it is now because of that shot going in.
Well, we got a lot to examine on seed line. Brooklyn losses last night.
Oh man, yeah, no, the Brooklyn loss really sticks to me.
Grizzlies still in great shape.
They're in really good shape, and now on the road for a handful of games. And we talked about it yesterday, how kind of these next couple of games are kind of weird. On the road against Minnesota, on the road against Houston next Monday, Wednesday night at San Antonio, Friday night at San Antonio.
With the rotten weather last night, how was it in-house? I couldn't really tell when I would flip over.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a fine crowd. I mean, it wasn't certainly wasn't jam-packed, but it didn't. I mean, it felt like a little less, but nothing crazy, I would say. So it was. I thought it was a good crowd for sure, with kind of everything coming that we got last night. But we'll see what the Grizzlies can do on this road trip over these next 4 games. So let's go ahead and get to another break, wrap up this first hour, and when we return, talking some more wagering with Bruce Marshall.
You to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. After looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and the staff, I was hooked. From restaurant, bistro, 3 meals per day, housekeeping, transportation, security, health care, physical therapy, exercise room,
Village.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and half off pretzels, mozzarella sticks, queso, $4 a day. Friday night lights from 7 to 11. Dining in Montreal Wednesday, 5 and 3. I'll watch college football at every pro game. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Highway 70. Fall is football.
Good afternoon. There's been some slipping and sliding going on out here. Just give yourself extra time if you have to get out and about. Please use caution and common sense. I'm telling you, some of these roads are just terrible, and then they're going to freeze tonight, and that's going to make things even worse. Just, again, if you have to get out, give yourself extra travel time. Weimer's Jewelry, conveniently located 7525 Highway 64, is your full-service, family-owned jewelry store here in Memphis. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
WHBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10. Joining the guys every Friday is college football historian and Vegas legend Bruce Marshall from Vegas Insiders. CBS Sports, Vegas alongside VegasSports.com for the 30 years on Memphis Radio. Sportstime, Bruce Marshall with Brian and Brian.
Bruce Marshall joins us now from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BAMSports.net. Joins us every single Friday to talk some wagering. But Bruce, before we get into some of these games this weekend, Brett was telling me earlier that you were in the LA area earlier this week, and we've been watching on television all of the tragic wildfire and things going on out there. What have you seen? What have you heard from what's going on in L.A.?
Well, it's terrible. I mean, it's you look at some of these the devastation there. It could have been. Carpet bombing couldn't have wiped out some of these communities any better than the fires did. But I mean, I used to live there for a long time. These things happen, and it's climatic conditions, and it's dry brush. And a lot of it, and it's the Santa Ana winds, and they come in like blowing like you can't believe, like hurricane force, and they can carry, and all it takes is somebody, and listen, there could be arson involved, I mean, who knows in some of these, but all it takes is one match, one spark, and these things go up. I felt wind we were in Orange County, so all this stuff happened about, 30, 35 miles to the north, but, I mean, the wind was still blowing like I hadn't felt since the day of the Laguna fire back in '93. And, we don't live there anymore, but I still can feel, what the wind was like. And it was unbelievably bad.
Wow.
And driving back through the desert.
Yeah.
And even through, Ontario, San Bernardino area, it's hard just to drive. And didn't surprise, well, no, you couldn't expect all that devastation, but I knew this was bad fire weather. And I'm seeing some of the stuff here, and it's hard to believe.
Bruce, with regret, I hate to say it and compare it to this, but you're right. Those photos, that looks like Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
It does. I mean, it looks like after a nuclear attack, or it looks like after a carpet bombing in Vietnam or something. Dresden.
Yeah,
Dresden. I mean, it looks like that. I mean, totally wiping out. Pacific Palisades. I will say this though, I mean, a lot of these people, I hate to say this, but I mean, it's a risk living in a lot of these areas, and a lot of insurance companies don't even do fire insurance anymore. But it's really there's a lot of Southern California like that, and what really scares me is all it takes is one or two kooks, and they're talking about some. They're thinking some people were involved in setting these things. It doesn't take much for this stuff to get completely out of control, and all it takes is really one match on a really blustery day. And they're going to have another one early next week, another two of them. Not quite as bad as this week, but something to worry about. And it really, there's another double whammy that could come. It has not been a wet winter there yet, but in the past, there have been times in the spring when if you'd get a big rainfall, and you can get that. And remember, you got 10,000-foot mountains right, adjacent to the LA basin there. So the runoff is very strong, and they've had flood problems forever. But if you get in one of these areas that had a fire and all the vegetation and brush is burned away, that's where mudslides can happen, and that's the double whammy. I mean, a couple of the years where we've really had that bad in the past in Southern California have been after the fires, and those areas, if it starts to rain and some of those areas have been burned, there's nothing to stop the mud coming down. So that's a potential thing we got to worry about later in the winter and spring.
And Bruce, having grown up there, you know the area very well, and you expressed to me in a text exchange that we had, you think some of the blame game is not correct.
Well, yeah, I mean, the blame, and I mean, some of the political leaders there, I mean, their incompetence has been highlighted by the reaction to this stuff afterward and how the response to it. But, I mean, the fire itself is not, those have started for decades, as long as I've been alive and long before that, irrespective of the political party in there. This fire would have happened no matter who was mayor and no matter who was the police chief there. Their responses to it, that's what's coming under scrutiny. But to assign blame to them for just the fires happening would be wrong, because this stuff happens. But you can blame them, sure, if you want, for some of the responses to it, definitely.
And the impact on sports, it has been severe, including the moving of the game to Monday. It was already scheduled for Monday, but now the Rams will host the Vikings in Arizona. I don't know how big an advantage SoFi Stadium is for the Rams, but I know they would far prefer to, in good times, be playing there instead of headed to Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't come to Vegas. A little bit closer than the Phoenix. Not much, a little bit. I think there's more Rams fans here. And you're right. I mean, at SoFi, there would have been a lot of Vikings fans there Monday night. I bet there's going to be a bunch down in Glendale. So that turns into a real sort of neutral game. Though I think in the Rams case and in the Chargers too, the home field stuff is sort of mitigated. If the crowd is a factor, then that's comes into play with those two. I'm not sure the results bear that out so much, but I mean, it's not the normal home field anyway they have. Still, they would have rather preferred to stay at home. They got to get up and move to Phoenix for the game, and the Vikings have to change their plans too. They did. There was a game in 2003, a Monday night game between the Chargers and Dolphins when the Chargers were still in San Diego, and they had some similarly bad fires down in San Diego, and they had to move that Monday night game in 2003, like on Saturday. They decided to move it to Tempe then, Sun Devil Stadium. That was before they built the one in Glendale. And they played that game in Tempe in 2003. So there's a little precedent for this, though that was just a regular season game, playoff game. You're right. Also, I mean, the Kings have had a game postponed this week. The Lakers had a game postponed last night. So that's also impacted the NHL and NBA, too.
Do you think, I know it's 3 summers from now, do you think there will be any political, pardon the pun, winds that blow against hosting the Summer Olympics? You don't think LA will try to get out of that, do you?
No, I don't think so, because none of the venues were touched by it. And although you never know. I mean, you could have some more of these and it would change. But got to remember, some of the stuff. I mean, the Olympics in the past have stayed in places, and as a World Cup in Mexico stayed in '86 after a bad earthquake down in Mexico. Which they thought about moving it. And that World Cup had moved from Colombia, actually, a few years before that. So that would take something really catastrophic for them to move the Olympics away there, and I don't think they will. None of the venues for the Olympics were hit by this, even though a lot of the LA Basin really got chugged.
Bruce, watching the game last night, a couple things hit home to me. One, the job that Marcus Freeman's done, the talent, the speed. Notre Dame, and they showed it against Georgia. Notre Dame just as fast as any of the SEC teams.
They are, and that defense. I mean, those guys when they grab a hold of you, they bring you down. I mean, it's well coached. He's Marcus Freeman. He's a defensive guy anyway, but he sort of let Al Golden run things defensively. He made a switch on the offensive side to bring Denbrock back to call the plays this year, but they sort of know their identity pretty well. I mean, this is a team that wins with the defense, and the offense does just enough. They're not all that smooth, but they do make some big plays. And from what I'm hearing, Freeman is on NFL radar too, which does not surprise me. I'm hearing Sarkisian is as well. Just another thought for tonight. And frankly, any of these guys, if they have a choice between the NFL and college these days, I know which way I would go. But that's something to look at in the future. But no, Freeman's done good. You know, and in retrospect, he did deserve Coach of the Year. I mean, I was thinking, you're probably Signetti, maybe Jeff Bonkin would be in there, but I have no argument with Freeman getting that honor. He's done a fantastic work.
Yeah, he absolutely has. Well, speaking of tonight, Ohio State and Texas going to get started here in just a couple of hours. Right now, Ohio State a 6-point favorite, that total at 51.5. What do you like in tonight's semifinal game?
Yeah, interestingly, Bryant, most of the bets, about 2/3 of the bets and about over 75% of the money bet apparently in Nevada has been on Ohio State. They haven't moved the line too much. I've seen some 6.5. I haven't seen it get to 7. I think so. There's sort of a resistance point. The sports books don't want to do that. They're going to take their chances with this number right here and where it's at. But I don't mind bucking, the masses here. Although it's a little scary going against Ohio State. Here's what I think tonight is going to be key. Watch the first quarter really close, because Ohio State has just jumped all over Tennessee and Oregon. As much as I'm not a Ryan Day fan, he has had his team ready to play out of the chute the last 2 weeks. 21-0 Tennessee first quarter. They had Oregon down 34-0 middle of the second quarter. Those games were effectively over at that point. In Texas's defense, though, the Longhorns have been a quick starter, too. Their problem has been sustaining that momentum, which they had a lot of problem doing that against Arizona State when they were out there early against the Sun Devils, and most of their games down the stretch, now not as big a lead in the SEC title game against Georgia, but they did have a lead there, and let that thing get away. The Clemson game, they were kind of cruising at halftime, and that got a little more dicey than it should have in the second half. The Texas A&M game, they should have had that game put away, 17-0. They couldn't extend it, and A&M got kind of closer in the second half. Even the Kentucky game, the Arkansas game, that's been Texas's MO, but they have started kind of quickly. So I think if they can withstand that early burst, Texas should stay in the game. I think they've got enough speed and athleticism on defense to not get overrun. I can't believe Will Howard is as good as he's looked the last couple of weeks. And remember, last month at this time, where everybody was complaining about Ohio State because the last we saw was the Michigan game and what's wrong with the offense. I know Jeremiah Smith is great, but Texas has got a lot of athletes there. I don't think they're going to get overrun. I want to see how Ohio State reacts if this game is 3-3 or they fall behind 7-3 and they haven't scored the early knockout. I think that could completely change the dynamics. We will see if Quinn Ewers can make enough plays to keep Texas in this thing. I think he might, so I'm going to recommend Texas, but I'm also recommending an under, 52.5, 53. Texas games only got beyond that twice this season. And before the Clemson game, at least. And the Ohio State didn't allow more than 21 except against Oregon back on October 12th in Eugene. So I think under is probably the way to look as well tonight at Cotton Bowl.
Who is this an indictment on tonight, Ryan Day or Steve Sarkisian?
The heat that Day is going to feel if he loses will be more than Sarkisian feels. Not much more, but more. And I'll tell boy, this guy does not look like he enjoys his work whatsoever. So, we will see. But I did think in Day's defense, they really came on him after the Michigan game. And I think that'll give you the indication about where the mindset is at Ohio State, a lot more than they came at Sarkisian after the Georgia loss. So I think Day would probably get more of that. But, any of that talk we heard after the Michigan game about his job being in jeopardy, I thought that was always kind of ridiculous because this guy has won. He's, 68-10 now at Columbus. So you're not going to fire a guy like that. But the Ohio State base, it's hard to think a fan base is more demanding than the Texas fan base, but I think we got one in Ohio State. So I think they would probably hear it a little worse if he lost tonight.
Yeah. Talking to Bruce Marshall, he joins us every single Friday. Just talk some wagering from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BAMSports.net. Let's go over to the NFL, and the wild card action gets started tomorrow afternoon with the first game, Chargers and Texans. Right now, the Chargers a 3-point favorite on the road. That total at 42.5. What do you like here?
I kind of like the Chargers. Not a lot, but, they've adjusted this number about right. But Houston is not where it was last year at this point.
No.
They really struggled. The second half of the season, a lot of weeks they did not look all that good. Stroud's effectiveness went way down, and partly because he's missing some of his targets. Tank Dell hurt, Diggs was hurt. He did get Nico Collins back, but they weren't running the ball, or they weren't passing the ball with any bit like the efficiency they were last season. They lost a game at the Jets in the second half of the season. They look like they're ready to get knocked out here. To me, I don't think they've played a really good game since that game against Detroit in midseason. And then the second half, they sort of lost their balance in the second half and lost that game. And I don't think they've been really the same since. The Chargers are good enough, I think, to win this game. One thing about Herbert this year, the impact of Harbaugh, fewer mistakes. He's kept his interceptions to a minimum. He is taking a few more sacks, but I think this is all because of Harbaugh, what he's doing. A little better schooled than before. So I think the Chargers probably win maybe a lower scoring game under. I'm wondering about this total in the Baltimore game. I think it's a little high. I'm sorry, the spread. Up around 10. This was the most competitive series in the NFL for years. And before that game a few weeks ago in Baltimore, they had played 10 straight games, none decided by more than 7, and most of those much closer. Like 2-3, 1-2-3 points. Pittsburgh had won 4 straight. I know they've closed the season cold, but I think they've adjusted this a bit too much. Mike Tomlin still has had a pretty good feel on how to defend Lamar Jackson. I know Derrick Henry changes the dynamic a bit. But Baltimore's history in the playoffs, Tomlin has historically been a good underdog coach down the stretch, not quite as much, but I think they've over-adjusted this. So I think Pittsburgh stays close. Maybe it doesn't win it, but 10 is a lot of points to give the Steelers.
I think we're all expecting Jordan Love to play this postseason like he did last postseason. What do you think of him, and what do you think of them, the Packers, on the road at Philly Sunday afternoon?
Well, if this arm thing is not that bad, I think Green Bay might have a chance here. They have lost a lot of these games versus the top tier, including the Eagles in the first game at Brazil, but that was a close game down there in Sao Paulo. The games against Minnesota were close, 2-point games. The Detroit games, competitive. They're close in all these games. So if Love is if he can throw, and I think he's going to be in there, I think Green Bay's got a chance. They are a solid underdog to be sure. Now Hurts will play. They cleared protocol. He's going to play, but he hasn't played in a few weeks. So we'll see if there's a little bit of rust there with Philly. I just wonder about the Eagles. Sometimes it's so much emotion for them, but that can get deflated kind of quick. I could see this being a 3-point game. So and Green Bay would not be without a chance to win if Love is okay. So I would probably inclined to take the points there.
You've been all over the Broncos this year in terms of their games. They've been a fun team to watch. Now on the road against the Bills, an 8.5-point underdog. Do you think the Broncos can keep it close on Sunday?
I think they could. I think this game goes, one of two ways. I don't want to sound like I'm hedging my bets here. Buffalo, maybe. Denver falls behind here. I could see this getting like the Baltimore game was for Denver, and maybe it turns into the 38-14 sort of game. But that was the only game Denver really got boat raced this year was against Baltimore. And I point out they did win a game at Buffalo last year when Russ was at quarterback on a Monday night in early November, and Will Lutz hit a field goal right at the end, and that was kind of a shocker. The Bills were floundering a little bit at that point. But I think it all comes down to, can Denver defensively, they can do some things. I mean, this is a big pass rush that Denver has. They've got Riley Moss and Surtain now healthy on the corners. But if there's a guy who negates a big pass rush, it's Allen, his ability to scramble and to improvise and to extend plays. You saw, I mean, that Lions game a few weeks ago, he destroyed Detroit on that. And this is why I think he's got a real MVP case. So Denver's got to somehow contain him. I don't think this is beyond Bo Nix to have a decent game. I mean, he's way beyond normal rookie status. He passed for almost 4,000 yards. His stats look kind of comparable to Allen's, actually. And Denver did cover 11 of its last 14 games. So I'm inclined to think this is going to be a closer game. And the weather's not going to be too bad by Buffalo standards. Probably the high 20s, maybe a little light snow, but not some of the howling winds. They say the wind's maybe 10 miles per hour.
It's worse than Memphis today.
Yeah, there you go. Not that bad. So I think Denver might hang around, make this thing kind of interesting.
Denver hanging around plus the 9.5, 10. Back to college, Bruce. Do you think this 12-team playoff for you, the college football fan, historian, has it done it for you?
No, though I might be wrong about, a little skeptical. I didn't like the way the selection process went, and I don't know that they got the best 12 in there. Now, I was really thinking, South Carolina was one of the best 12 teams at the end of the year, though I understood them not making it in there. I do think Ole Miss is one of the 12 best teams, and I think they are really kicking themselves. But it's still not level because these conferences and the schedules can be so different, and they're still going so much on purity of record. I think they're going to expand this to 16, I think, the next time they can in a couple of years. But what the SEC's got to wonder about here is, it is, even on an 8-game schedule, to do better than 5-3 in this league is tough. And so look how many teams had at least 3 losses this season in this league. And if that puts you behind, if they're going just on, purity of record here, that could put the SEC at some handicap. And there's not a real mechanism for them to accommodate that. My gut feel is, in my opinion, I don't know that the conference championship formula, the way they do it now, where there's really no more divisions left. Maybe the Sun Belt still does that, but they're just taking the top 2 teams. Even within a conference, there is so much fluctuation in how a schedule could be. Look what in the SEC, some of the teams had much different schedules this year, at least in the old East-West. And I know they've expanded the league somewhat, but at least you got a more pure delineation there, in the championship game. So I think that's kind of a negative. But overall, this selection process, it's always going to be dicey, but I don't like the way it was done. And I think the schedule thing, there's still some vestiges of old college football in the way scheduling is done, especially non-conference games. This is not a level schedule that all these teams are playing, yet they're basing so much of this on straight-up record, and I just think that's flawed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bruce, where can we find more of you?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Check me out online. Picks, and by the way, college hoops going really good. So go up to the new place, Winners and Winers, picksandparlays.com. We are having a scorching week in college hoops. Also, VegasInsider.com, and you can also see my stuff up at CBS Sportsline, sportsline.com.
Bruce, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next Friday.
Okay, have a good weekend, boys.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce, and Happy New Year to you. Bruce Marshall with us, as he is every Friday. He's on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. Sissy's Log Cabin, the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies, supporter of Tigers Athletics, and on Mondays all football season, they brought you this look back at the weekend in the SEC every Monday at 4:30. They're the Mid-South's they have the Mid-South's largest selection of one-of-a-kind jewelry, engagement rings, wedding bands, necklaces, and earrings. Valentine's coming up soon. Everybody needs to start preparing for that. 9,000 square foot store in Laurelwood with expanded lines for Rolex, Cartier, diamonds, and more since 1970 with all the great locations across the Mid-South. Sissy's offers a selection of diamonds, estate jewelry, and fine gifts. Supporter of Tigers athletics and the Grizzlies, and the official jeweler for the Grizzlies. And you can see a lot of that great jewelry on display at FedEx Forum in the floor seat lounge. Unsurpassed value, exceptional service, expansive selection, and an extraordinary shopping experience, because life's too short for ordinary jewelry.
Yeah, and we got to get to another break, and when we come back, we got to talk some Razorbacks. 0-2 start in conference play for them when it comes to basketball, but that SEC is no joke. So let's go ahead and get to a break, and when we come back, talking Razorbacks with Ty Richardson.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat on your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today for your loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlin, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rows, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267.
For over 8 decades, America's farmers have counted on the little red tractor from Case IH, the Farm Hall, to help them make short work of undemanding chores. Well, Mid-South Ag can show you they aren't just for farms anymore. With horsepower ranging from 30 to 105, plus an army of attachments, they can tackle every chore on your to-do list. From hauling and mowing to loading and towing and then some. Stop by Mid-South Ag Equipment or call 662-890-3141 to find a Case IH Farm Hall that's right for you.
Tiger fans, don't miss the action when Memphis men's basketball welcomes East Carolina to FedEx Forum Saturday, January 11th. The Tigers will tip off against the Pirates in an American Conference matchup at 1 o'clock as we celebrate Kids Day with face painters, balloon artists, and a halftime baby race. It's time to stand up, Memphis, and support your Tigers at FedEx Forum in a big-time matchup that you do not want to miss. Memphis and East Carolina, Saturday, January 11th at 1 o'clock. Get your tickets now at GoTigersGo.com.
Good afternoon, T-Dot. It's busy with a couple of disabled vehicles. Traffic's moving over here right now on 240 East and westbound up by Poplar. They've done a good job with sand and salt this afternoon on all the major routes now. But some of these back road side streets, not so good. It's going to freeze tonight, and that's going to make things even more dangerous when you get out and about. So please be careful, use caution and common sense. Weimer's Jewelry, serving the Memphis area for over 40 years, no matter what the occasion is. Go by and see them. You'll save a lot of money by shopping local at Weimer's Jewelry. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Time to talk Razorbacks on Sportstime. Joining the guys is Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas to talk all things Hogs and SEC. On Twitter X at Ty Sports Radio, here's Ty Richardson with Bryant and Brett.
Come on, all you Razorback fans, let's stand up and call those Hogs!
Ty Richardson joins us now from ESPN Arkansas in Fort Smith to talk the Razorbacks and the SEC. Ty, thanks so much for joining us. We got to talk Arkansas and SEC basketball, but before we get to that, the lone SEC football team still standing. They'll go tonight in their semifinal game, Texas and Ohio State. Have you been enjoying these playoffs, especially with kind of the lack of SEC as we get deeper into the playoffs?
It's been enjoyable in terms of last night, but outside of last night, man, it wasn't the Texas and Arizona State game. It wasn't a great game. So I'm hoping that this game delivers and you have two good semifinal games leading up to the championship. But guys, I mean, is there a way both these teams can lose? I mean, there's no there's no likability factor about Texas or Ohio State whatsoever.
Can any of your listeners warm up to, carrying the SEC flag and pulling for Texas in that manner?
Oh, we haven't got a one, Stats. I asked that question this week, and I was like, is there anyone on Texas? I mean, if you look at, like, money-wise, like, if I had to pick, I think Texas covers. I think Ohio State wins. But in terms of I want this team to win and money's not involved, no, not at all, Stats.
No, it doesn't feel like it. Just the first year in. I got this question: who do you think would be more insufferable, Notre Dame or Texas, if they won it all? And I said Texas because they already are, with only having won it once since integrated football.
Oh, it has to be Texas. I mean, they've been braggadocious for way longer than me and trying to be alive.
When they were going to the Alamo Bowl.
That's right.
Yeah, I know. And so, like, for me, Brett, it's like, you'd almost give Texas vindication. Like, they get to the college football playoff last year. If they were to win it the first year in the SEC, and they've been, like, parading around, the SEC ain't so tough, we're Texas. Well, they would have every right to say that if they went on to win the national championship. And Georgia, I guess, could hold over them. Well, we beat them twice, but at the end of the day, they're not standing anymore because of a variety of different things. So, yeah, I would have to say Texas. In fact, I would say it's a lot more Texas. But I didn't grow up in the hatred factor of Notre Dame. I actually like this Notre Dame team. I think Marcus Freeman is a great embodiment of what college football is all about, guys.
We agree. And, Brian, we talked about that a little over an hour ago. Yeah. I've never been consumed at all with Notre Dame hatred. Want to beat them, but do respect and value them. And I texted you this last night. Either the national champion or the runner-up for this year will be in Fayetteville next September, Notre Dame.
Yep. Yeah, that Notre Dame game is going to be really, really interesting. I know they're going to lose Riley Leonard and a bunch of other talented players on the roster, but they'll reload. And I'm curious, like, the dynamic with Quinn Ewers, like, if he loses tonight, does he stay in Austin? Does he go elsewhere? What other big-time program is maybe buying for his services? But, yeah, that Notre Dame game next year, I think it's the third week of the season, is going to be absolutely wild.
Who knows? It could be Quinn Ewers as the starting quarterback at Notre Dame against Taylor Green in Fayetteville.
Yeah, and I misspoke there. It's actually week 5 because they got Ole Miss week 3 and then Memphis week 4. So Liberty Bowl and Oxford. So yeah, no, that'd be a matchup. And Quinn Ewers didn't fare that well in Fayetteville. I mean, if you remember that game, it was 20-10. That offense was not humming, and that's like when Texas has played. And Arkansas by no means is a code defense, guys. But when they played like good defenses like Georgia, they haven't been able to score a lot. So that's why Ohio State, Jack Sawyer, and the rest of that unit, if they play good, I just don't know how Texas keeps up with that Ohio State high-powered offense.
Does everybody realize the schedule that the Razorbacks that they face next year in September?
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, you start out the season with a toss-away game. I think it's Alabama A&M, and then week 2 it's Arkansas State. Week 3 is in Oxford in the Grove and Vaught Hemingway. Then week 4 back in Memphis in the Liberty Bowl where they won against Texas Tech, and I don't know if they can definitively say they'll win that Tigers game. And then week 5 is Notre Dame, so that's just the first 5 weeks, and then you go to Baton Rouge, to Knoxville, to Austin, and to where's the last one, guys? And to Oxford, like I said. So those are the 4 road matchups next year. Did the Texas Tech win pacify some people? Did it back some people off? Did it take some of the things out? I think it did to a certain extent, Stats. I mean, I was happy after the game for the guys, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just look at the last 3 years. You won 6 regular season games, 4 regular season games, and then this past year you won 6. And I mean, that's not pleasing anybody. So there are a lot of improvements that have to be made. They've added some guys in the portal. We'll see how they pan out. But if they would have lost it, it would have just been like the world had turned upside down across the natural state. Could you make anybody come back to a Liberty Bowl over the next 5 or 6 years? I got to be honest, guys. I love going there. That's my second time. I didn't go back 2 years ago, but I mean, the Arkansas fans. You ask every Arkansas fan that made their way to the Liberty Bowl, they enjoyed it. I know it doesn't. It's not that like Memphis or the Liberty Bowl have a bad rap. It's the fact that like if you're going there, you've had a marginal season. If that was like a marquee, like I'm talking about massive, and they listen from top to bottom. Steve, Harold, all those guys do a fantastic job. Like that's a really well run bowl, but it just doesn't have like the Peach Bowl, the Orange Bowl, it just doesn't have that like that sex appeal because it's again two teams that are 6-6, 7-5, and if it was a bowl where teams were 9-3 or 10-2, then Arkansas fans would think it's the greatest thing ever because it's across the border. But it's just not how it goes.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Talking to Ty Richardson, he joins us every week from ESPN Arkansas to talk the Razorbacks and the SEC. Over on the hardwood, Arkansas 0-2 in conference play following losses on the road at Tennessee and then earlier this week at home against Ole Miss. What have you seen in the first two conference games from the Razorbacks?
A team that doesn't have an offensive identity just yet, and I'm curious if it comes. You're putting a lot of pressure on a true freshman, Boogie Fland, who I think is 10 of 35 or 10 of 36 in his first two SEC games. DJ Wagner didn't play well earlier against Ole Miss. It's just asking a lot. I think this idea of just having 9 players on the roster is going to be a one-year thing. I doubt John Calipari does that next year. I think he's going to go back to, I guess technically you can have 15 now is what the NCAA ruled, but 12 or 13, just because they've been injury plagued. Guys, they haven't played one game this season where they have a full complement of the 9, like full scholarship playing players. Now, they've got the other guys that have been banged up too, but I just don't anticipate that being the case. Defensively, they look lost at times, Bryant, and you're just hoping they can figure something out. If not tomorrow against one of the best teams in college basketball, next week when their schedule lines up a little bit with LSU and Missouri.
On Tuesday night against Ole Miss, I heard no booing in the crowd at the Ole Miss game, watching it on television, but I did see a lot of empty seats. Do you think some of the new is wearing off of John Calipari and fans a little disinterested?
I think it's a combination of, like, there haven't been any good home non-conference games. Like, they're in these marquee non-conference neutral site games, and the ACC Challenge was in Miami, but, like, there's no meat in the and then you get Ole Miss, and after you get beat by 24 this past Saturday. So it's just hard. I think for fans to not just fully wrap around that it's basketball season, because it is, but the team hasn't necessarily fared that great in these last couple of games, and I don't know what it's like in Memphis right now. I'm going to guess there's a good chunk of snow on the ground, but guys across this is like the largest snowstorm I would say that's ever hit the whole state of Arkansas. NWA probably got it the least outside of like southwest Arkansas maybe, but you're going to see I think a lesser crowd tomorrow too in the combination of the weather, how they played against Ole Miss. Morale's just not great for Arkansas basketball right now. Now that's subject to change if they win tomorrow, but it's just it's not the best it will be under John Calipari. That's for sure.
Is Calipari liked, loved, indifferent? What is it?
I think it's just like he's revered, and you got like one contingency of the fan base is like he can't be questioned in anything he does. The other is just like listening to all these Kentucky fans that are saying, well, you guys got sold a bill of goods. And all I've done is like, okay, since the sport has changed, let's just go back last 3 or 4 years. What has Cal done? He's got one NCAA tournament win in 4 years. And for an Arkansas basketball program that prior to last season had made the NCAA tournament, went to 3 straight Sweet 16s, 2 straight Elite Eights. I mean, that's a pretty high barometer of success that Eric Musselman had in a 5-year stint. So I think it's one of those things. So if they don't make the tournament, there's going to be a lot of angry people considering that supposedly Arkansas has the highest paid roster in college basketball. I don't know if people have 100% decided yet stats, but they're definitely a little restless after these 2 conference losses.
I don't know that he'll play it this year, but with this year looking like it could be a struggle at some point, if he ever plays the y'all should be glad y'all have me. You can cut the lights out. The fans will be so disaffected by him.
Yeah, this is the third Hall of Fame coach that they've had in Fayetteville in the basketball. Think about the late Eddie Sutton, Nolan Richardson, of course, who won a national championship, should have won 2, and then and this one. Arkansas's had a really good basketball program at times, and I just the hope is that this guy is so ticked off at how it played out at the end of Kentucky that lights the fire under him. And it's early again. You're still putting a lot on a freshman point guard, like I alluded to earlier. I just hope it doesn't come to that. But it's listen. There are every possibility is out there when it comes to what happens within Razorback sports. I think you know that better than most.
He loves to remind his fan base how fortunate they are to have him.
Yeah, and as long as that fortune is returned by wins, and particularly NCAA tournament wins, this fan base doesn't care about regular season stuff. The back and forth I have, like the statement I make that gets some people bristled and angry is saying Arkansas baseball is not a blue blood program, even though they've been to several College World Series. To me, blue blood means championships, and Arkansas doesn't have one. It's hard because they've been so salty in the regular season. Arkansas basketball at times Kentucky basketball is that way under John Calipari, but I mean that fan base expects championships from Rupp to Joby Hall to Cal to Pitino. I mean that's just what it's about. The level in Fayetteville is not to that extreme, but if you paid all this money and did all this stuff for just regular season, that's going to dissatisfy some people, particularly the ones, if I had to guess, like Mr. Tyson, Mr. Stevens, who made this hire happen in the first place.
Yeah. Ty, you look around the SEC, and just through the first week of conference play, you mentioned Tennessee and Arkansas's game. You've got Tennessee that wins by 20-plus points at home against Arkansas. Their next game out, they get beat by 30 points. And then you've got a team like Kentucky. They put up 106 points in their first game at home and then go out and get beat by double digits at Georgia. It feels like every single game is going to be a tough game for every team in this conference. It feels like road games are going to be incredibly difficult in this conference. What type of record do you think wins the SEC?
I think it could be a tie at the top, Brian, where it's like 13 or 14 wins. I mean, you think about the not even the first weekend, but like the first weekend and a half, basically. It was insane, and you just pointed out some scores that kind of went all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw some more upsets tomorrow. I know it's the road teams that had the better edge and the victory on Wednesday, and then some of the favorites had it on Tuesday. But it's just it's more difficult than it's ever been. And that's another. You and I were talking about a month or so ago. It's like, okay, in the '90s you had the legends and Richardson and Pitino and Kruger was up there too. And there's some others, but in terms of top to bottom, the SEC has never seen anything like this in basketball, and so that makes it, as Cal alluded to earlier this week, more difficult on him, and he knew what he was getting into. That shouldn't be a surprise. But guys, it is topsy-turvy. To your question, sorry, Brian, I would say 13, and I don't think that's an under. I legitimately think it'd be 13 wins this league, like 2 teams tied, and the tiebreaker edges out. It is that crazy this year.
No, it is going to be a wild, wild year of conference play. But Ty, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Stay warm. Good to hear you again, Seth.
You too, Ty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ty. Ty Richardson joining us from ESPN Arkansas in Fort Smith to talk the Razorbacks and the SEC. And for Arkansas, 0-2 start to the season. They definitely need to start turning it around.
And the Gators tomorrow.
Yeah, I was about to say, it doesn't get easy. I mean, we talked about it pretty much all year at the start of basketball season of the way conference starts for Arkansas is really, really tough at Tennessee, and then back-to-back home games against Ole Miss and Florida. We'll see what they can do in that game tomorrow, 3 o'clock on ESPN. Well, let's get to a break, and when we come back, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day. We'll also have to get to our Big Four for Ohio State and Texas. We'll do all of that next on Sports Time.
specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. If you are a first-time guest or have dined with us countless times, I want to thank you for making us part of your lives. Whether you're celebrating with the crowd or planning a cozy date night on the town, Napa Cafe can provide you an extraordinary evening. We have 5 dining rooms, including our private wine cellar, our Jan's room for 2 guests, and the Eleanor room for parties up to 60. Sit back, relax, and celebrate. Leave the cooking to us. Come see me at Napa Cafe, 5101 Sanderlin Avenue. We're open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. We also offer curbside pickup from our full menu. For details on our stay-in, dine-out menu or reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe in 2024. We can't wait to serve you.
Sometimes you just need to make it fast, like the fun that comes from a quick and nimble 2024 Honda CB500F. It's a medium-style stabilizer to narrow 171cc twin, along with a sleek TFT display, dual disc brakes, and standard ABS, all at a full price. Find fun all-around flexes of 2024 Honda CB500F, available at DeSoto Honda, 5656 Winter Road, Olive Branch. I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
All right, we'll start with big number, then we'll get to our big 4 for Ohio State and Texas. My big number today is $4 million. That is currently the figure reported that the University of Miami will pay quarterback Carson Beck for next season. $4 million is what currently is being reported for Carson Beck. That would mean next year Beck would make more than NFL All-Pros Christian Gonzalez, Brock Bowers, and quarterback Brock Purdy's combined salaries for this season. I think Carson Beck probably made the right decision to stay in school and go to Miami.
He made a good one. My big number is 1,937. I did it yesterday, the combined wins for Notre Dame and Penn State. Well, that's the combined wins all-time for Ohio State and Texas. Wow. 976 for Ohio State, 961 for Texas, 1,937 wins all-time. This is gold-plated Final Four. In the rest of the college football playoff in the years ahead, you may not have a more distinguished Final Four again than this first one.
Yeah,
in the 12-teamer.
Yeah, definitely a good possibility you don't. And I mean, that's just it's a ton of wins. And we talk about it. Yeah, maybe it's lacking that SEC flavor that a lot of people in this area love. But when you look at those brands and those programs, it's hard to top what we're seeing in this first Final Four of the 12-team playoff.
All right, Landon, lead us off. Your big 4 all-time for Ohio State and Texas.
All right. Let's start with I'll start with Texas. I'll go with Texas first. At number 4, this one was really difficult. I had a lot of scratching out. Brian and I were talking about it off air a little bit. But I went with Tommy Nobis. I felt comfortable with Tommy Nobis at number 4.
Very good.
Number 3, I went with Colt McCoy. Number 2, Earl Campbell. And number 1, two-time Heisman. Oh, sorry, that was with the other list. Ricky Williams, all-time leader at Texas. And then Ohio State's list, number 4, I went with Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, I love that one.
Number 3, I went with Orlando Pace. Number 2, paid some homage to my Tennessee Titan, Eddie George. And number 1, this is the two-time Heisman winner, Archie Griffin.
Yeah, I don't know how it could be anybody other than, as they called him lovingly, affectionately at the Downtown Athletic Club, all the wait staff, all the bartenders, the elevator operators, all called him two-timer.
That's good.
Only one can be called that.
That's
Brian,
right.
go fire away.
Okay, I'll start with my Texas Big Four. Number 4, I have Colt McCoy. Number 3, Earl Campbell. Number 2, Ricky Williams. And then number 1 for me, when I think Texas football, only one player comes to mind first, and it's Vince Young. I have Vince Young, number 1 for Texas.
When I think of Vince Young, I think of my apology. Have I gotten it yet?
I don't think so.
No apology to be found.
Still nothing, Landon?
That call would have to go through
Landon. There's two things that still hadn't happened. I still hadn't gotten my apology, and Vince Young still hadn't won a Heisman.
That's right. But you have accepted the apology that you haven't gotten yet. So you've.
I've been big about it.
He's the big man.
I may not be this big about it. Next week, I need my apology.
Yeah, get it in.
My Ohio State list, it starts with Archie Griffin. Number 1, number 2, Eddie George. 3, Orlando Pace. And 4, I wanted something on defense.
Okay.
And I went way back. Not one of the more popular guys and involved in one of the more controversial plays in the history of the NFL. But he was great in the NFL, and he was great there. Defensive back Jack Tatum at Texas. Number 1, Earl Campbell. Nothing ever changed it. I don't care who comes along. I know what I saw and when I saw it, and it's going to be the Tyler Rose, number 1 for me. Number 2, Ricky Williams. 3, Vince Young, quarterback of their last national championship team. And number 4, like you, Brian, I had Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy. I'm glad Colt McCoy was on all
great
3
college
of our lists.
player.
Yeah,
He was recognition.
Incredible when he was at Texas. So
Tommy Nobis was the linebacker of his time, though, and was lovingly known as Mr. Falcon. He was the first player drafted by the new franchise, expansion franchise, Atlanta Falcons, and number retired for them, too. And Texas, for a long time, they didn't retire it. They just wouldn't distribute number 60, what he wore at Texas. They would wait till the right guy came along to let him wear it. And an Earl Campbell story, when he was a freshman, I can remember in a game, it wasn't against Arkansas either, it was another game, though, what a force he was on special teams.
Really?
Can you imagine him barreling down at you as the gunner?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll
No.
pass.
The ball's going to bounce around.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Brett, we talked about it to start the show. Notre Dame is back with their win last night, and Texas could, officially be back if they can pull the win.
They've been back a bunch.
They've been back a bunch, but this would really be the. Texas is back. I mean, if they can make it back to a national championship, that'd be huge.
I know some may wonder why none of the 3 of us had Steve McMichael on defense for Texas, and he was really good there.
Yeah.
But he wasn't even the best defensive lineman on that team at Texas. He was real good, but he got with the Bears and got his Hall of Fame status, of course, in the pros with the Bears, but good at Texas, but wasn't considered great.
Yeah, and we've talked about these lists just in their college playing days. Nothing with the NFL, just while they were at these schools. So yeah, I really like our lists. And these were fun. It was tough, but I think I like these lists a lot more than I liked yesterday.
For the national championship game, I've got a great Big Four idea.
Okay. Do you want to share? Do you want to?
I'll throw it out there January 20th to y'all.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
We know Notre Dame will be one side of it.
That's right. So I can start kind of looking and wondering, okay, what on the Notre Dame side?
I'll give it to you now.
Okay.
The Big Four moments in their football histories.
Okay.
I mean, that could be 100.
It really
for
could.
all these.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you told me now because I can start looking.
That last night for Notre Dame. It's up there.
Yeah, it definitely could be in that top 4 because that was huge last night. I mean, to win that game, with Marcus Freeman and that was a statement of a win and a statement of a moment for this kind of new age, new era of Notre Dame football. So it'll be fun to watch tonight. See what happens in this game between Ohio State and Texas. Again, Ohio State about a 6-point favorite right now in that game. I'm going to start here in about an hour and a half or so at 6:30. Let's go ahead, wrap up our second hour, and get to another break. And when we come back, we got to talk Tiger basketball. They're back in action tomorrow afternoon against East Carolina. 1 o'clock is the scheduled start time for that game. Put out a statement yesterday saying that the game time for that basketball game tomorrow had not been changed, still going off at 1 o'clock. No updates yet on anything changing, so it sounds like that game's still going to go off at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But we got to talk to Jason Munz. He's the Commercial Appeal Tiger basketball beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, and he's, as always, presented by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. He joins us next.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Farkas. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been the Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from a Mediterranean diet to steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family affair is still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous. Listen each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa is a PCUSA church downtown Memphis. Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Woloshin, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover once again.
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You say
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our third and final hour on this Friday afternoon. We're about to talk to Jason Munz, the Tiger basketball beat writer over at the Commercial Appeal. He's presented each and every week by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. But before we get to Jason, tomorrow Tigers back in action at home against East Carolina. 1 o'clock game scheduled for tomorrow. We have a 4-pack of tickets courtesy of our friends over at Sissy's Log Cabin to give away. If you want to go and support the Tigers tomorrow afternoon in their second home conference game against East Carolina, go ahead and call the Sissy's Log Cabin listener line, 901-360-8255. That's 901-360-8255. First caller to call the Sissy's Log Cabin listener line, you're going to Tigers in East Carolina tomorrow afternoon. Well, Jason Munz, he joins us to talk some Tiger basketball and kind of going into tomorrow's game. You're 2-0 in conference play. You're on a 3-game winning streak after the win against Ole Miss and then FAU, North Texas. What did you see in that North Texas game? Because it was very different from the first game on the road against FAU, a game that you're kind of holding your breath there at the end, hoping the Tigers could hold on for that win. What did you see in that home matchup last Sunday, Jason?
I saw a team that did what needed to be done. There was nothing fancy about it. The fact of the matter is this: North Texas plays a very similar brand, a very similar style to Virginia. It doesn't look much like modern basketball, and so in that regard, it's not easy necessarily to play for or to prepare for, and not, it's not going to look good. It's not going to be pretty unless you are just. I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but most of the time, it's not going to look like a work of art out there. And so, a 4-point win against a team like that is probably, that's like beating a regular team by, 10 or 12. So, I thought at this stage of the game, winning is all that matters. I guess, winning and not losing is really all that matters at this stage of the game. And that's
it, Jason.
what they did.
I said Monday, you could argue that it was the win of the year, and the Tigers have a lot of different things that you could pluck off the win of the year tree, and that's a good sign too, because when you have that special dream year, that run, that go far a year, you have a lot of wins of the year. But I made the case that on Monday that the North Texas game was the win of the year, if for no other reason, the conversation it avoided.
Yes, because it was you had the loss to Mississippi State, and then you have your Christmas break, and you come back and you ace that test. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wanted to know, how was Memphis going to respond coming off of another home loss, a second home loss in the month of December? How was Memphis going to respond against an Ole Miss team that, as we know, they're really good this season, and so. They passed that test with flying colors. Okay, you start American play on the road against a decent-ish, at least not abysmal FAU team. They're certainly not what they have been the last couple of seasons. But again, it's on the road. It's they're not completely terrible. They go down there and win that game wire to wire. And I think what was the final? I think they won by 28 or something like that. Or 27, I don't remember what it was, but it was a very, very decisive win. And so you're thinking, okay, they're coming back home. It's a very different style of basketball that they're going to be going up against. And as it played out, it was tight. And you start thinking to yourself, as you mentioned a second ago, Brett, like this is going to be a really, really difficult conversation if somebody like PJ Haggerty doesn't pull a rabbit out of his hat I mean, that wasn't the game winner, but like,
Man,
Close enough.
What a shot.
that was the other thing about that.
It was the
game. I mean,
backbreaker.
My goodness, 30.
You said had.
maybe-
I was going to say somewhere else he pulled it out of.
I mean, you know what was almost as it wasn't as impressive, but it was still part of the sequence. There was Dane Danger getting the ball to him with his offhand because his right arm was had gone completely numb because the defender had hit him on his funny bone. Like for him to have the wherewithal to get rid of it and get it to PJ in time for him to get that shot off. Like I thought that was kind of lost in the conversation, but no, PJ Haggerty's 30 or possibly 30 plus foot shot that scraped the ceiling of FedEx Forum. It was like, that's one of those things that when we write the top 10 moments of the year, I feel like that's probably going to be on there at the end of the season. So, no, it was at this stage of the game where Memphis is. Like Jerry Palm updated his bracketology this morning. Memphis is a 3 seed. And you see, I think DeCourcy's latest has them as a 4 seed. Lunardi's either a 4 or a 5. So like at this stage, it's all about holding serve. Like you just do not need to backslide.
Don't go backwards.
And winning is what does that. Like when you can, by 4 points or by 14 points, it's all about winning.
Give us a look inside. You said that Haggerty's shot would be somewhere in the top 10. What would be your in the clubhouse right now, number one?
Golly, that's
overtime in Maui.
A couple of those Tyrese Hunter shots in Maui. Dan Hurley's meltdown in overtime with the over
Still
the
beautiful, isn't it?
the over the back thing where he lost it, and PJ Carter goes to the free throw line and hits 4 free throws in a row and sort of puts that game away. That's up there pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, I mean Tyrese Hunter in Maui was just nuts.
Take your moment at Clemson.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember. It feels like that was so long ago, but I can't even honestly, off the top of my head, I can't even remember. Like, I know it was obviously it went to overtime. I remember that, but I can't remember like whether there was like a thing. Oh, it was Colby Rogers. Colby Rogers hit I think 2 3-pointers in overtime to really get that thing put away. And he's had some, like Colby's had some really big moments. But yeah, I would say again that Haggerty shot is fresh on everybody's mind, and then of course, like you said, the stuff in Maui, and then was it Colby Rogers who did the damage against it was him and Moose
early
who were the big
against Ole Miss. He couldn't miss.
Yeah,
Musa against Ole Miss is up there.
Yeah, the double against Ole Miss, like that. I think that right now that belongs in the conversation as well. Like it was
sure
sort
does.
of his not really his coming out party, but more like he turned a corner that day, or Memphis fans hope he did. So yeah, like there's been a lot of really good moments so far this season, and that Haggerty shot is definitely one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of people talk about the front court play in this game against North Texas for the Tigers. You had Nicholas Jourdain in 23 rebounds, finished with 3 rebounds and 3 points. Moussa Cisse, only 15 minutes of action for him, 0 for 2 from the field, only 1 rebound. What did you make of those 2 performances?
I'm not panicking necessarily, just because I think, this deep into the season, we're halfway through the season. It appears as though, this is just what we're going to this is just what we can expect from Memphis's front court is, inconsistent play. Yeah. Like one game, Moussa Cisse is going to look great against one of the better SEC teams this season, and then against North Texas, he's not going to have the greatest game, and then Dane Danger is going to have 7 turnovers against North Texas, but he's going to score 14 plus for the 3rd straight game in the same game, and then Nick, like, I think honestly, what's going to elevate this team is when Nick Jourdain can give Memphis like a set number of points, rebounds, and a few other things almost every night. Like, not everybody's going to have an off night, but like Nick is really, really up and down with his like production and stuff. Now I'm not saying that Nick Jourdain needs to go out and be a 15-10 guy. He's not that guy. His value, there's a lot of value in him being the glue guy, like not putting up the big numbers.
Absolutely.
But it's just, there's too many games where it's like 2 points and 2 rebounds, or 5 points and 4 rebounds. Like, he needs to get closer to, I think, like 8 points and 5 rebounds. Like, if he can average 8 and 5 over the course of conference play, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Like, that will be, I think, something that will take this team from, this level to the next level. And I mean, again, like, obviously what I'm saying is like that 8 and 5 from Nicholas Jourdain is not like jumping off the page. Like, I could see where people would be like, what, that's going to be the difference maker. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, because of what you're already getting from PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter and Colby Rogers and Dane Danger, like, if your 5th starter can be a guy that you can rely on for X and X, or X and Y, then I just think that makes the team that much more dangerous and like raises the ceiling. I think at least one level.
Jason,
so yeah,
this is almost from the find something to worry about department, and I'm good at that. And this is more of a March question than probably it is a Friday, January 10th question. But we talk about don't go backwards. Stay where you are. Stay where Mike DeCourcy and where the bracketologists have you. How do the Tigers improve with this limited roster? Because you can't really have big pickup 5-on-5 because they don't have that many guys to really get better in practice. And how do you get better against this conference slate for March?
Well, so, that is one of the, I think, pressing questions. Everybody assumes, because, we probably talk about it too much, but we all talk about the net a lot. We talk about the net, KenPom, and all these other metrics, these predictive metrics, rankings and stuff. Like, there is, I think, a misconception that now that they are in this league, now that they are into conference play, that there is not really an opportunity, because like 14 of their last 16 games are against quad 3 or quad 4 opponents. There are 0 quad 1 opportunities left. There are 2 quad 2s, as we sit here today, 2 quad 2s, and then the rest are quad 3 and 4. But that doesn't mean that you can't improve. Like, that doesn't mean you can't rise up the rankings. Like, margin of victory matters.
You got to blast some people.
Yeah, like, you're going to have to do some stuff like you did to FAU, where, if you recall, when they did get that blowout win on the road against FAU, they rose 12 spots in the net. Like, that can be done. And it's not just about margin of victory. It's also about playing well. If they can reduce their turnovers, like, offensive efficiency statistics matter in the net. The better you play, like, the better it's going to reflect in your standing in the net and some of these other places. It's supposed to sort of mimic the eye test, these efficiency numbers, like, so that the selection committee doesn't have to actually watch every single game. Like, if they cut down on the number of turnovers, they're one of the worst turnover, like, committee. They commit more turnovers than just about everybody in the country. If they can cut down on that, and they can, score more, and they can, if they can get better at assists to made baskets, like if they can increase that ratio, then it's going to be reflected in their net ranking. And the same goes for defense. Defensive efficiency numbers, if they can improve there as well. And this is a good, frankly, the league is so weak this year, you can do that. Like if you are dialed in and you're not just kind of going through the motions, because even if you just by showing up, you might beat a team by 10 instead of 20. Yeah, that's great. You're not losing, but you're also not really gaining any ground in those metrics that might matter on Selection Sunday. So I think that is really the thing at this point. That's the competition now for Memphis. That's the challenge, is to just really sharpen their skills, and it'll pay off. I think that's what we're going to see over the course of the next month and a half.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned defensively. I think that was one of the things I enjoyed watching the most in that win over North Texas, especially in the second half. They really turned up that defensive pressure, picking up full court. And you look at, some of those numbers, held North Texas to their lowest three-point shooting percentage of the season. They forced the most turnovers North Texas committed since, I think, middle of last season. And, 3 of their 4, they were talking about this on ESPN during the game, 3 of their top 4 leading scorers held to 1 for 19 from the field in that game. I mean, and Penny Hardaway's talked about it all off season and even during the season. Memphis can really do it on the defensive end.
So here's the way I would contextualize what we saw from Memphis defensively against North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
North Texas, in the game before North Texas came to Memphis, they were down by 17, 18
That's
points
right.
against UAB.
Mm-hmm.
They come back and win that game because guys like Aiton Wright and I forget the other guy's name. It's like Josell or something like that. They went crazy. They both went on these huge, they couldn't miss almost. And that really propelled them to get back into that game and win it. I think it was Wright who hit the game-winning three-pointer to beat UAB in that game. So then he comes into Memphis, Aiton Wright, 0 points. 0 points against Memphis. Well, then they turn around and they host, or I don't remember if they hosted Temple. They played Temple just a couple of days ago, and he had almost 20 points at halftime. Aiton Wright did. So, to me, that's, I think North Texas put 4 guys in double figures or whatever it was. So it's it was kind of you shut this guy down and maybe you shut that guy down too. But some other guys got theirs, like the big men. It was the big man show for North Texas with Soko and can't remember the other guy's name, but no, that's the thing with Memphis. They have the ability. I mean, remember what they did to Virginia. As soon as they started applying pressure against Virginia, those guys didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They could not handle it. And so, we can also talk about Memphis's three-point defense. It's not been very good. So there's definitely room for improvement for Memphis defensively, but there is something there. If they can bottle that up and they can capitalize on the good version of the Memphis defense, well, then I think again it's going to only help in those rankings that we all have to talk about every day. And the better the better you get in those areas, the brighter your chances are for seeding purposes.
Do you think Penny loves this team as much or more than he did the Kendrick DeAndre team?
Oh, that's a tough question. Oh, man. I do get that sense sometimes. I will. That's a really good question. But I do get the sense sometimes that he does.
Mm-hmm. And should.
Yeah, I mean, I think he really, really liked. I mean, I think he loves Kendrick Davis and loves DeAndre Williams. You know, I would bet you if you asked him today, like who his 5 favorite Tigers that he has coached so far, I bet you Kendrick and DeAndre are in that mix.
Jeremiah 3.
I don't know. I think Ayla would probably be 1.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
You know, somewhere in
of
there.
course, his sons, but we mean his
right.
on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but with that said, like, I also think that, and I think the reason why I say this is because, well, let me say it first. I think this is his favorite team, and I think the reason why is because he can see it. Like, he can see the potential and how it's and how close it is to being within reach. Like how very realistic it is for them to achieve what he thinks they're capable of achieving. And, you know, a lot's been made over the last few weeks about how sort of fiery he's been. Like, there's been some times where during games he's been caught on camera really like lighting into this player or that player or whatever. And, you know, it's kind of become a little bit of a talking point, like, man, what's going on? Like, why is Penny being so hard on these players? And I asked him after one of the games, is it because you think they can handle it? Like these guys have shown you that they're mature enough and willing enough to accept constructive criticism that you feel more comfortable, like more, you know, free, more liberated to crawl in their behind. And he agreed with that. But I also think there's another aspect to it, and it's that he knows just how close he is to getting somewhere he's never been for the first time. And I don't think he wants it to slip through his fingers. Yeah. And so I think, I'm reasonably certain that he is having as much fun or more with this group than he's had with any other.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. And we'll see what they do tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock against East Carolina, looking to start conference play 3-0. Jason, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next Friday.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Jason. And be safe out there. Everybody be safe out there. And I know people are starting to get out, and we're cutting the grooves in the roads and getting out, in a good place to enjoy a great Friday night or any time during the weekend is at Jim's Place Grill. It brings you Jason Munns every Friday talking Tigers basketball. Over 100 years of charcoal grill steaks, over 100 years of celebrations, family time, and lasting great memories. The Terrace family with their touch for our community, their beloved community that they've been a part of for all these years and all these good times that we've had, recipes that date back to the beginning in downtown and now in Collierville at the railroad tracks at Poplar and Houston Levee. I promise you, it's packed right now. It always is, but it's room for you, and it's a lot of fun. Online at jimsplacegrill.com. I know that was a favorite for a lot of people for holiday gift giving. Don't forget the Ian Grill at jimsplacegrill.com. Every steak grilled perfectly over an open flame. Come to Jim's Place and taste and see the difference. Lunch hours Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dinner hours Monday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Since 1921, a Memphis landmark. Hard work, values, and a dedication to their beloved diners, the Terrace family. They've created that memorable dining experience. At the lunch menu, the staples like the souffle ma, the shrimp cocktail, crab cakes, and those salad dressings, all homemade. And at dinner, the calamari, the soups, the seafood, and the steaks, fillets, ribeyes, and strips. So many office and family get-togethers during the holidays, and they enjoyed and appreciate having you. Great bar area at Jim's Place Grill in Collierville.
So tomorrow afternoon, Tigers back in action, 1 o'clock against East Carolina, an East Carolina team that is 9-7 on the year, but you look at what they've done recently, losers of 6 of their last 8 games, so really struggling coming in to Memphis tomorrow.
waiting for a Vegas point spread for us to do Tiger bankroll.
Yeah.
Still not one out. I see.
I haven't looked. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure that's something that we'll get later this evening tonight. Usually they start putting those out later tonight.
And I don't know this or not, but one thing on all systems go to play tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder they may be. We got to get East Carolina here first.
Yeah, and I know one American game, I think Charlotte at Tulsa has been postponed because Charlotte cannot get to Tulsa. So yeah, I think the fact that we haven't heard anything about that, I would think makes it seem like all of that is good. But
Me too.
Definitely something to keep an eye on with all of this winter weather. Well, before we get to a break, let me remind you about our 5 o'clock sponsor. It's Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. They've been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984, and their talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Also, take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender, available in multiple models to fit your needs. The Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169, or go online, jaguarbluffcity.com. But please go out there and give them a visit, 6335 Will Cove, just off of Quince for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, we need to get to another break, and when we come back, it will be time for our First National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
The 2025 Range Rover Sport sits right at the heart of the Land Rover lineup, offering a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility. Smaller and more agile than a full-size Range Rover, it's a great option for everyone who wants luxury and practicality. Every model comes with 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard. Whether you navigate city streets or tackle rough terrain, Range Rover Sport has you covered. Every drive is powerful and breathtaking. The 2025 Range Rover Sport is the epitome of sporty luxury. Test drive one at Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up. I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code YEAR to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat on your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today to their loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlin, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
Good afternoon. MPD clearing up a couple of wrecks we had out here earlier. Normally it'd be heavier than this over here on 40 eastbound from Sycamore View Road all the way out into Fayette County as you come past Germantown Parkway. Some of these side streets, back roads that haven't been traveled on that much are still going to be a problem tonight when all this stuff decides to freeze, so please be careful. Weimer's Jewelry, serving the Memphis area now for over 40 years, no matter what the occasion is. Go by and see them. Save a lot of money by shopping local at Weimer's Jewelry. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Friday football forecast from First National Bank and Trust, a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. Real estate isn't something you purchase or develop or desire. It's something you appreciate, respect, and know. With real estate, there's no gray area. You either know it or you don't. First National Bank and Trust, a proud division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. They've known it since their beginning in 1886. Clients depend on First National Bank because they know real estate. Brooks Winchester, Bill Samish, and many more can assist you in your acquisition of that hunting land, farmland, a construction project. Let First National Bank and Trust make your dreams a reality. 775 Ridge Lake Boulevard, Suite 140 in Memphis, 901-498-5763, or the office in Collierville, or online at fnbtmemphis.com. For commercial real estate, residential construction, or recreational and agriculture financing, let First National Bank and Trust help you. They're a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas, where I have had an account, been a friend, and been a customer my entire life.
And just like in Eastern Arkansas, people have come to learn it in West Tennessee. Stable, secure, solid, reliable, and consistent through all these years. Only one, almost want to cry, only one college game to pick, and that is the semifinal game tonight in the college football playoff, the Cotton Bowl. Last night we picked the Orange Bowl. I had Notre Dame, and Connor had Notre Dame. Darian and Bryant both had Penn State. Bryant, you are 24-20 for the year. Connor is 22-22, so he can still technically tie you with this game and the national championship game left.
Wow. Well, the question, Brett, really is, who did you really pick? Because we know you kind of threw a curveball in there on us.
I threw the old one crowd gets one side and the other crowd gets the other.
That's right. Shame on me for reminding people.
I got to take my L with Jocks, though.
That's right, but you get a win here, so that's all that matters.
And that's all that matters.
That's right.
17-27 on these bowls for me.
Take a win where you can get it, I guess.
But tonight at AT&T Stadium, it says 6:30. We know it'll be 6:45. Ohio State minus 6.5 over Texas in the college football semifinals. 2-1 all-time Texas leads Ohio State. They last played in a bowl game after 2008 regular season in the Fiesta Bowl. Texas won that 24-21. This is the number 1 versus number 3 in all-time wins matchup tonight. 489 draft picks all-time for Ohio State, 368 for Texas. Ohio State with 91 first-round draft picks. That's number 1. Texas with 48 all-time. That's good for 11th. 998 weeks in the AP poll for Ohio State. I think we can make it 999 when they do the final poll. That's number 1. Texas, 789 weeks. That's number 7 all-time. You want gold-plated? We got it. Had gold helmets last night. Got gold-plated tonight. And we will start with picks. I'll pick first. I'm taking Texas plus the points. I don't know if they can pull the upset, but I'm going to take the 6.5. Connor has Texas as well.
Oh, boy.
Darian takes Ohio State. Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State as well. We've seen them play their 2 best games of the season, the last 2 games, and so I think that Ryan Day is going to have his group ready to roll tonight. Texas, they've been able to win games, but you've had questions about them and really how dominant are they. If Ohio State comes out, if they're able to throw the ball around and move the ball, I think they'll win quite easily over Texas. So I'll take Ohio State here, but I think, we talked to Bruce about a little over an hour ago, and he said, for Ohio State, it's about a strong, fast start for them tonight. They definitely need that. I think they'll get it. So I'll take Ohio State minus that 6.5.
Last night, not just because I had picked both teams, but all night, when Penn State looked like they were going to win, okay, fine. Yeah. Then when Notre Dame won, well, that's a good story. I feel the same way about tonight. I guess some SEC loyalty will kick in at some point. I don't know.
Maybe.
NFL this weekend, NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. It starts tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 on CBS. The Chargers are 3.5-point favorites over Houston. First playoff meeting ever for these two. Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL playoffs. The Chargers 12-19 all time in the postseason. Houston 5-7 all time. Chargers looking for first playoff win since the 2018 playoffs. Second postseason start for Justin Herbert. DeMeco Ryans in the playoffs each of his first 2 years as the Texans head coach. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one. I loved what Alan Bell said earlier. Don't overthink it. The Chargers are the better team here. I know they are on the road, but I've just been really impressed with the way they've been playing. And so I'll take them. I'll take them minus that 3.5. I would have liked it better, that -3 that's kind of moved to now. But, Houston has not looked like the team they were last year. C.J. Stroud has had that sophomore slump season. So I will back I'll back the Chargers in this one.
Connor doesn't overthink it. He takes the Chargers. I don't overthink it. I take the Chargers 31-10. Darian thinks about it. He takes Houston.
All right, I like it. Not a group lock. Very close to our first group lock, though.
Tomorrow night on Prime at 7 o'clock, Baltimore minus 10.5 over Pittsburgh. Fifth playoff meeting ever between these two. Right now, 1-3, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh in that first four in the playoffs. But 2015 was the last time they met in the postseason. Only matchup of divisional rivals this weekend. 41 touchdown passes this year for Lamar Jackson. 5.76 yards rushing per attempt this year for Baltimore. That's a lot of Lamar and a lot of Derrick Henry. Pittsburgh, the only NFL team not to have an opening drive touchdown this year. 31 out of 32 teams been able to accomplish that. Pittsburgh, they haven't. John Harbaugh versus Mike Tomlin. Pittsburgh, 36-28 all time in the postseason. Baltimore, 17-13. Connor takes Pittsburgh. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one. I mean, it's just one of those things. Do I think that
you like the points or straight up?
I like the points. No, I think Baltimore's going to win this game. I think Baltimore covers this game, Brad, if I'm being very honest with you. But I am not going to bet against Mike Tomlin as long as I live and as long as he's
pulling
coach.
me on jocks? You taking both sides?
No, I'm not taking both sides. I'm just telling you that I have principles.
Okay.
I have morals that I have to stick by, and one of them is to always back Mike Tomlin, especially when he is a dog. So I'll take
tough customer.
I'll take
I love
Pittsburgh.
it. I like them just to cover the 10.5. In fact, I had Chargers 31-10. I have Baltimore winning 23-13. Darian takes the Ravens and lays the 10.5. On Sunday at noon on CBS, Buffalo minus 8.5 over Denver. Buffalo 19-21 all time in playoffs. Denver 23-19. This would just be the second time, though, these two teams have ever met in the postseason. Back on January 12th, 1992, Dan Reeves versus Marv Levy, John Elway versus Jim Kelly, and it was 10-7. This one won't be 10-7. Denver led the NFL this year with 63 sacks. 6 straight playoffs for Josh Allen. In this one, Darian takes Denver. Connor takes Denver. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver as well. Give me that 8.5 points. I think, Denver's been a fun story, and I think they can keep it within this number. It's going to take a lot because, Buffalo has been so good this year, and this feels like one of those years that maybe Josh Allen could get over that hump. But I do think this could be a close game. I'll take Denver.
Group lock. I'm going to take Denver as
right.
well, plus the 8.5. We've been pretty good this year, NFL group locks. For the year, we are 10-6 on NFL group
really
locks.
Good.
I don't think Denver will pull the upset, but I think they stay close, losing 17-13 14. At 3:30 on Sunday on Fox, Philadelphia minus 4.5 over Green Bay. Philadelphia 25-26 all time in the playoffs. The Packers 37-26 all time. When they play each other, Philly leads 2-1 in playoff matchups against the Pack. First playoff meeting ever was December 26th, 1960. The last one came January 9th, 2011. Temps in the 20s, warmer in Memphis this weekend than in Philly. How about that? Saquon Barkley over 2,000 yards rushing this year. The 25 combined wins for these two teams, the most ever in a wild card game. Now, I know we're also in 17-game seasons. Darian takes Green Bay. Connor takes Green Bay. Give me Green Bay. Green Bay with the upset, 24-21 over Philadelphia. Bryant, group lock time?
No group lock here. I'm going to take Philadelphia. This is a weird number. I've been wondering why this number is where it's at and how it's kind of been moving. But, Philly minus the 4.5. We know Hurts is going to play. He's out of concussion protocol. It looks like Jordan Love is going to play following that injury, but we'll see how effective he is. But, this feels like a game where Saquon Barkley will be able to probably run the ball around. And so, I don't want to overthink this one. Philly has been a really, really dominant team this year. And so I'll back them. I'll take the Eagles minus that 4.5.
I think the best game of the weekend is the Sunday night game. It's probably why NBC got it. 7 o'clock Sunday night football on NBC. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. Tampa Bay minus 3.5 at home over Washington. A battle of Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield versus Jaden Daniels. Tampa Bay 12-12 all time in playoffs. Washington 23-20 all time. Tampa Bay leads 2-1 in the postseason when these two meet. They last met in 2021 in the postseason. These two they haven't played a lot. It's just 13 regular season and playoffs all time against each other. 5th straight year in the playoffs for Tampa Bay. Tom Brady started. Baker Mayfield trying to keep it going. Washington, their run defense, 30th out of 32 in the NFL. Run, Tampa Bay, run, and I think they will. I have Tampa Bay winning 20-16, laying the 3.5, getting there by a half point.
Wow, yeah, this feels like one of those games where, when I was looking at this, if this was a 3-point line, I would take Tampa Bay. But with this being 3.5 that we're going to play it at, I'm going to take Washington here. I think this is the game. You talk about how good. It seems like the best game for the weekend. This feels like one of those games that could come down to a field goal. So I will take Washington plus that 3.5.
Both Darian and Connor take Tampa Bay, so you're lone wolf with Washington.
How about that? I like that. I like that a lot.
You don't mind it, huh?
No, I don't mind it. I'll be the lone wolf. I mean, like I said, I think this is going to be a back-and-forth game. I think it's going to be super close. And, when you get games like that, a lot of games in the NFL come down to a field goal. And so I'll take my luck. Jaden Daniels has been so good this year. But rookies, John talked about it all day today. Rookies in the playoffs have not been very good. So that's definitely something to kind of worry about.
Yeah, you got to worry about that with Jaden Daniels. You got to worry about that with Bo Nix in the Denver-Buffalo game. With your Cowboys out, do you have a team you're pulling for in this postseason, or just enjoying the games?
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the games.
Me too.
There are players in
my
there.
Lions next week.
Of course, your Lions. But this weekend,
almost forgot about my Lions.
No. Well, you're not playing this week.
Silly me, yeah.
Kick your legs up and enjoy the action a week off. I mean, there are players that I like to root for. I really like Josh Allen, so I'll probably root for the Bills. And
I love Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh. I like John Harbaugh, too, but I love Jim Harbaugh.
Definitely Jim. Yeah, I mean, no teams, though, that I'm super rooting for with the Cowboys.
Do you know the screaming hot takes if Lamar and Allen both lose?
Yeah, no, it is. It'll be bad. It's the thing that's holding them back from being absolute. Considered one of those.
It's a Super Bowl
right?
world.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to what you can do if you can make it all the way.
It's a ring world.
They just haven't been able to do that.
That's our Friday football forecast, brought to you every Friday by the great people at First National Bank and Trust, a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. For real estate, whether it's commercial, ag, hunting, recreational, contact them at fnbt.com or call them at 901-498-5763 or visit 2 great offices in West Tennessee where customer confidence is the cornerstone.
Less than an hour until the start. Well, probably more like an hour away from the start of the Goodyear Cotton Bowl tonight between Ohio State and Texas. It's on ESPN. It already looks like, a lot of videos coming out about the crowd and them obviously in Dallas or at AT&T Stadium with those general admission tickets, everyone running in trying to find their spot right when those doors open. So it looks like it's going to be a fun environment. Should be a good game tonight as we see who will meet Notre Dame in the national championship game. But let's go ahead and get to our final break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a mother pheasant plucker, I pluck mother pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Elwood Shack in the Lowe's parking lot on summer just keeps getting bigger and better. Bigger because now there's a second Elwood Shack at 4040 Park across from the University of Memphis. And better because you can get breakfast every day at both Elwoods. There's the barbecue breakfast burrito, even beef brisket or pork shoulder, and pancake biscuits made fresh daily. Real house-made pancakes, apple and bacon, French toast, and more. And the new Elwood's even has a real coffee bar serving fresh roasted J. Brooks coffee. Elwood Shack, now in 2 locations and open every day for you.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's a location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks. $5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code YEAR to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Family Leisure floor model sales happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2024
50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even football tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beer seating? Family Leisure has theater seating up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool season. You can buy it and get on the installation schedule and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell a friendly staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model. So now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, we rented I-40. Family and fun come together.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye! Hello, Haskins.
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today, two things from the NBA. Paolo Banchero, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. He is set to return after a 34-game absence with an oblique injury. He's set to return tonight to that Magic lineup, and we talked about it yesterday with Keith Smith. The Magic have done a great job when you look at the guys that they've been missing, including Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, both those guys being out, a lot of other guys out with injuries as well. They've done a really nice job of staying afloat, staying alive, and I believe a couple games now over 500 without their star players. But now Paolo returns tonight, so he should be a good addition back to that Magic lineup. And then the other one, right after having a big game earlier this week, Zion Williamson, his first game back from injury, he played really well, looked good. He's now suspended for one game for a violation of team policies. I mean, he just came back and you're already out. So you hate to see it for Zion, but you do like to see Paolo back.
Yeah, you do. And Major League Baseball teams should send their training staffs, medical staffs, to Orlando and see how they treated him to get back so quickly from that oblique. Because now I know it's a different sport and a different discipline, but it takes forever for baseball players to get back from oblique injuries. What I learned today, Drew Allar was exactly who I thought he was, and I saw it last year in the Peach Bowl. He's bad versus anyone decent. Versus 6 ranked opponents this year, here was his average: 14 of 25, 157 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Last night, 12 of 23, 140 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 0 completion. That's Drew Allar.
Yeah, that was the biggest stat from last night. It didn't complete a single pass to a player that was listed as a receiver. I mean,
he can't go down the field with the ball.
No, and you mentioned it earlier, Brett. That was the first thing you told me last year after that game, Ole Miss in Penn State. You came in the first time I saw you. The first thing you said about the game was, Drew Allar's not that.
Bring him on.
Yeah, you said you would not be afraid to see him again at all, and certainly in a big moment was not able to get the job done last night. What I could have done without is the news coming out of Baton Rouge earlier today. The Louisiana State Police announced earlier today that a warrant has been issued for Kyron Lacey's arrest. The wide receiver for LSU is facing homicide and felony hit and run charges after an accident, a fatal accident last month from December, and now issuing a arrest warrant for him. Kyron Lacey, one of the standout receivers for LSU, he is declared for the upcoming draft, but obviously this is just terrible to see. December 17th, this accident happened. I believe the the individual that was killed in this crash. I think a former Marine. I think was in the military, an older guy, about 57 or 56 years old, I believe. So just really sad to see that news out of Louisiana earlier today.
I could do without all the people that are missing out on what Marcus Freeman's already accomplished at Notre Dame. Year 1, 9-4. Year 2, 10-3. Year 3, 14-1 and counting. One more to go, and he could be the national champion. Nobody in South Bend misses Brian Kelly.
No, I mean, he has done a fantastic job, Marcus Freeman, that is, of really, going in and, having all that. How do you replace Brian Kelly? I mean, this is how you do it. You go to the national championship very easily. He's making it look
LSU will do it easy, too.
Yes, they will. Oh, where are you beaming?
Cotton Bowl, been to 3. I went the last 2 at Fair Park at the venerable Cotton Bowl Stadium, and the first one at Jerry's World. It's a lot of things, but venerable Jerry's World is not. Pulling for Quinshawn Judkins and his nice family tonight, but I'm okay if Texas wins. I'm just going to watch and enjoy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun matchup tonight. I know this is a bigger spread than last night's game, but this does feel like a game that could go either way. Being me, you mentioned it, Brett, Sunday night, it feels like the best wild card matchup, Commanders and Buccaneers. It's been really fun to see Baker Mayfield and kind of getting this revitalization of his career in Tampa Bay. They've got the young running back, Bucky Irving, that has been a star down at Tampa Bay, going up against the best rookie quarterback this season in Jaden Daniels. What he has done with that offense and that team, new head coach, new quarterback going into the season. Usually that is not, those are not the ingredients for a team making the playoffs, but they were able to do it this year, and they have looked really, really good. That should be a fun game Sunday night.
So much for us to watch and keep an eye on this weekend, including Tiger basketball tomorrow at FedEx Forum against ECU. Can Will Howard be better tonight than Quinn Ewers? And if need be, can Arch Manning be better than both? NFL playoffs, I think there are 3 upsets out there. I'm looking forward to seeing Bo Nix play in that weather in Buffalo, being from Alabama. He's never played anything like that. And then the big game, Philadelphia and Green Bay, Love versus Hurts. And sometimes, doesn't Love hurt?
Love hurts a lot of times, Brett. That's life.
It was a song, Love Hurts.
Been
Rams
written
at
about,
home.
It's been sang about. It's been everything.
Rams at home in Glendale, Arizona.
Yes. Unfortunate that game's being
Big
played
Blue
there,
Nation, Kentucky and Starkville tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great weekend. When you've got tonight in the second semifinal game, the NFL weekend, NBA, college basketball, a little bit there for everybody. But that's all the time we have this afternoon. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe out there with all of that snow over the weekend. But enjoy it. Enjoy all of these games, and we'll talk to you again Monday afternoon.